रहे हैं हमारे पैनलिस्ट। और सबसे ज्यादा मैं धन्यवादी हूं अटेंडीज का, जो मतलब प्रोग्राम शुरू होने के विद इन 1 मिनट इन बिग नंबर हमारे प्रोग्राम में पहुंच जाते हैं। आने वाले प्रोग्राम तो संजय जी आपको अनाउंस करेंगे ही। जैसे 2 तारीख को भी प्रोग्राम है 8 से 10 तक हमारा सबसे बढ़िया प्रोग्राम है ड्राफ्टिंग के ऊपर। क्योंकि जो ड्राफ्टिंग है, ड्राफ्टिंग स्किल आज की डेट में ना केवल असेसमेंट, अपील्स, अब तो ट्रिब्यूनल भी ऑनलाइन हो गया। तो ड्राफ्टिंग की स्किल सबसे ज्यादा जरूरी है। और कैसे ड्राफ्ट करना है, किन चीजों को ड्राफ्ट करना है, किन चीजों को छुपाना है, किन चीजों को दिखाना है, ये सारे टेक्ट आपको संजय जी और रवि गुप्ता जी जो ग्रीस जी के को ऑथर हैं वो आपको बताएंगे 3 दिन के कोर्स में। वो भी हम 8 से 10 तक कर रहे हैं। इसके अलावा और भी प्रोग्राम है फोर्थ कमिंग, वो भी वॉइस ऑफ सीए की तरफ से हम बताएंगे आप सबको। तो मैं सबसे पहले आप सबका स्वागत करता हूं। और आज हमारा जो टॉपिक है वो टीडीएस है, टीडीएस एंड टीसीएस। और इसके ऊपर हमारे कालड़ा जी ने बुक भी लिख रखी है टीडीएस और टीसीएस के ऊपर। और हमारे स्पीकर आज हमें बताएंगे कि जो कल से प्रोविजंस एप्लीकेबल होने वाली हैं टीसीएस की एंड टीडीएस की, 194Q की या 206 की, वो कैसे इंप्लीमेंट होनी है, किसके ऊपर इंप्लीमेंट होनी है, और हमें इमीडिएट उसकी कंप्लायंस की जरूरत है। तो मैं सबसे पहले रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा हमारे फाउंडर संजय अग्रवाल जी से कि वो 2 शब्द कहें। उसके बाद अविनाश जी, देन आई विल हैंड ओवर दी चार्ज टू मॉडरेटर्स। संजय जी।
थैंक यू अश्विनी जी। I think we have forgotten our moderator Swinky. She is smiling like anything. So you are welcome in the program. And मेरे जो है वो ऑनरेबल स्पीकर राजेश मेहता जी फ्रॉम इंदौर, एंड मेहता साहब whenever we request him he always come, and let me tell you he is a man of simplicity. He explains everything in a very simple manner. That is the best part of him, and he is well known in the central region. Now we have thought it that we will make him a star of north also, so that is why we have requested him to come here. And all our seniors, मनु जी हिमाचल से, अनिल कुमार जी हमारे DGIT प्ले के, काला साहब तो जो है आज के बर्थडे बॉय हैं, आपको बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। स्विंकी, रणदेव जी हमारे भी मॉडरेटर हैं, अलीपुरिया जी, गौरव जी अपना अमृतसर से ये बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं। और ऋषभ, मैं बोलूँगा कि अभी कंट्रोल रूम भी उनके पास है। मैंगी साहब, रणदेव जी, धर्मेंद्र जी, गुरलीन जी, और हमारी टीम मास्टर ब्रेन जो टेक्निकल सारा एडवाइस हमको दे रही है, जतिन, आकांक्षा शाही, अमिंदर जी, अनीता वर्मा जी, इंद्रजीत सिंह भारद्वाज जी, कमल भारी साहब, मैं आपको स्पेशली विश कर रहा हूँ, आप जल्दी से ठीक हो जाएं। ये काफ़ी इनकी तबीयत खराब रही, एंड ही इज़ द बैकबोन ऑफ द वॉइस ऑफ सीए, सो आई विश हिम दैट ही शुड बी हेल्दी एंड ही शुड ज्वाइन द मेन स्ट्रीम ऑफ वॉइस ऑफ सीए। देन
थैंक यू सो मच सर।
हाँ, थैंक यू। आप काफ़ी वेट भी लॉस कर लिया है, स्पेशली मैंने रिक्वेस्ट किया कि आप जरूर आए। एंड जस्ट आई विल ब्रीफ ऑन फ्यू ऑफ द थिंग्स, बाकी तो अश्विनी जी ने बता ही दिया। एक हमने लास्ट वीक जो प्रोग्राम किया था अपना थिंक टैंक का, अनचार्टर्ड अपॉर्चुनिटीज, इन अपॉर्चुनिटीज के लिए जो हमने प्रोग्राम किया था, तो उसके अंदर मैं उसमें एक स्पीकर था और मैंने बहुत सारे पॉइंट बोलने थे, लेकिन जिस हिसाब से हमें रिस्पॉन्स मिला, तो अल्टीमेटली हमारे मेंबरों ने इतनी अच्छी अच्छी चीज़ें बताई कि मैंने सबसे पहले ये सोचा कि पहले हम अपने मेंबरों को सुन लें, फिर उसके बाद हम अपनी बात करेंगे। और अल्टीमेटली 8 बजे 5 बजे का प्रोग्राम शुरू हुआ, 8 बजे हमें उसे रोकना पड़ा, ये कह के कि इसका हम सेकंड एपिसोड करेंगे। हमने पर्पसली, क्योंकि हमारी कैपेसिटी जूम की 1500 है, इसलिए हम इसको YouTube लाइव नहीं कर रहे हैं। YouTube हम बाद में प्रोग्राम के करते हैं। मेरे पास बहुत रिक्वेस्ट आई कि आप उस प्रोग्राम को जो है लाइव करें और मेरी रिकॉर्डिंग को दें। हम चाहते थे कि दोनों सीरीज के 2 या 3 जो है हमारे स्टेप्स जो उसके अंदर हैं वो पूरे हो जाने चाहिए, पर वो पूरे नहीं हुए और मुझे इतना प्रेशर आया कि नहीं, यू मेक इट लाइव, वी वांटेड टू कंट्रीब्यूट, एंड आई एम टेलिंग यू, all of you that you should ask all our members, those who are not in conventional practice or those who are in conventional practice, but they are doing some unconventional professional works also. So we will listen to everyone, and then we will prepare a roadmap which will be called as a white paper on all these opportunities. So we have made our YouTube recording public also. So what we now today, that is in public, and you can see our first episode also. So far as the uncharted opportunity is concerned, you can see what we have talked earlier. I'm going to issue a minutes. I'm going to issue for the second, which I'm planning in the second week of the July. So presently, as on 2nd of July, our young and star speaker is there for Indias, and he is also backed by our Kamal Garg. He is going to address on the you can say the initial part on the inaugural address, and then Karthik Jindal will speak on the Indias. Now thereafter, we have program in the Thursday, Friday and Saturday of the second week, that is 8th, 9th and 10th. As I already announced, Ashwani ji, that the drafting course will be there. This time we have organized, this is the third drafting course which we have planned, and we are going to give lot of inputs on the faceless proceedings which are going on, both assessment, search assessment, which are not faceless, but the submission, how to make submission in the search assessment, and then Dr. Ravi Gupta will address on the appellate part. So this is right now is there. Then on 16th, we are planning to have a one-day program on internal audit, and this will be a program which will be based on a cricket commentary. You can feel the cricket, how the cricket can be played and internal audit can be done. So we have a speaker, Satish Shinoy from Mumbai, addressing, and he is a very interesting. So please join us. All those who have not yet registered, they should register for the our 716 program also. Then the rest of the things, I'm not taking much of the time. Voice of CA through KM Academy Foundation have given us around 1,000 masks, N95 masks. We are dispatching today all 1,000, and we have requested them to give us more 3,000 because a lot of requests are coming. So this is the background. Some of the panelists have joined right now. I'm sorry that I have not named them. So because they are all warriors of the Voice of CA, they are most welcome. With this, Ashwani ji, for the rest of the proceeding. Regarding the book, may I request that book can be released after this. If the Dr. Girish Ahuja joins at around 5 o'clock, then we will release. Otherwise, I will request Rajesh Mehta ji that once TDS is complete, you give us 5 minutes to release the book, and then we'll take the TCS provisions. Or as you wish, when give us 5 minutes in between. If Dr. Girish Ahuja will come, then Guruji will speak and will inaugurate the book. Kala ji, theek hai?
Yes, sir.
Is it all right?
Yes, sir. As and when Dr. Girish Ahuja sir joins, please ask me to stop if I could not see him.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So with this, Ashwani ji, back to you.
थैंक यू संजय जी. हमारे पीयूष जी भी ज्वाइन कर चुके हैं, पीयूष बांसल जी पास चेयरमैन जलंधर ब्रांच, गौरव गुप्ता जी भी, और भी मेरे ख्याल में हो सकता है आगे पीछे हो जाते हैं ना क्योंकि नाम. तो मैं सबका स्वागत करता हूं वॉइस ऑफ सीए की तरफ से. आज का हमारा टॉपिक ही ऐसे है, टीडीएस और टीसीएस. ये जो टीसीएस है वो तो वोटों के साथ में हम जोड़े, वो तो हमने कलेक्ट कर ली है आपकी. टीडीएस हमने डिडक्ट भी करनी है जो वहां पे है. तो संजय जी के लिए दोनों प्रोविजन एप्लीकेबल है. इलेक्शन ईयर है तो टीडीएस और टीसीएस वोटें कलेक्ट भी करनी है, डिडक्ट भी करनी है. तो इसके साथ ही मैं हैंड ओवर करता हूं श्विंकी सिंगल जी को कि वो मॉडरेट करें और सेशन को स्टार्ट करें।
अश्विनी जी, कुछ लोग कंप्लेंट कर रहे हैं कि मल्टीपल वॉइस आ रही है, मल्टीपल वॉइस आ रही है। एक बार
चेयरमैन साहब, सॉरी वो मैं भूल
गया। एक
मिनट
अश्विनी जी, एक मिनट। कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं कि मल्टीपल वॉइस आ रही है, सो प्लीज एक बार चेक कर ले कि क्या अभी भी मल्टीपल वॉइस आ रही है, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ पे नहीं आ रही। जो चैट बॉक्स में आ रहा है कि मल्टीपल वॉइस आ रही है,
मेरे यहाँ भी नहीं आ रही। कोई क्या
मल्टीपल आ रही है, मेरे पास भी आ रही है ये।
अश्विनी जी, मैं
एक बार यहाँ पे भी मल्टीपल वॉइस आ रही है।
अविनाश
सर, मल्टीपल वॉइस में इशू एक ही होता है, किसी ने यूट्यूब चैनल का साथ में कोई
ऑलरेडी होगा। नहीं, किसी ने यूट्यूब के थ्रू
चेक कर लीजिए। आपका इंटरनेट एक्सप्लोरर पे यूट्यूब ना खुला हो, उसको बंद कर दीजिए, देन देयर विल नॉट बी एनी मल्टीपल वॉइस।
यूट्यूब से आती है
जी, प्लीज।
ऐसे हमने रजिस्ट्रेशन हटा रखी है, आप ना हमारे रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर डाल के भी लॉगिन कर सकते हो जूम में। तो अविनाश जी, एक मिनट के लिए आप भी जरा कुछ शब्द बोलें ताकि फिर हम सेशन शुरू करें। सर ऑलरेडी वी आर लेट, सॉरी मैं भूल गया आपका नाम।
नहीं सर, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। आई थिंक सर इट वाज अ ग्रेट इनिशिएटिव, और सेशन सुनते हैं। ऑल आर हियर टू हियर द सेशन ओनली। बाकी सर बस मैं आई जस्ट रीच हियर। आज हमने सर स्पुतनिक वैक्सीन लगाई है NIRC में, तो अभी मैं 1 घंटे पहले वहां से निकला था, तो 900 हो गए थे जिनको हमने आज स्पुतनिक V वैक्सीन लगी है। एंड इट इज प्राउड फॉर चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट दैट फर्स्ट चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हु गॉट वैक्सीनेटेड इन दिल्ली, स्पुतनिक इज अ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट ओनली। तो हम पहला पर्सन दिल्ली में हमने CA को लगवाया, और आज पूरे दिन 900 लग चुके हैं। मेरे ख्याल से 1000 क्रॉस हो जाएगा 5 बजे तक। सो ये होने के बाद सर 10,000 पीपल, चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, स्टूडेंट्स एंड देयर फैमिली मेंबर गॉट वैक्सीनेटेड इन अवर NIRC कैंप। इसके अलावा सर हमने 1 लाख पेड़ का इनिशिएटिव आज शुरू कर दिया। हमारे ऑनरेबल प्रेसिडेंट और वाइस प्रेसिडेंट ने पहला और दूसरा पेड़ लगाया, तीसरा पेड़ मैंने लगाया, और आज हमारा ऑलरेडी हम 150 पेड़ सुबह से लगा चुके हैं, और कल हम इसको और स्केल पे शुरू करके 1 लाख पेड़ पूरे रीजन में हमारा टारगेट है जो हम लगाएंगे। सो दिस इज द सेकंड इनिशिएटिव दैट वी आर डूइंग। बाकी कल CA डे है सर, CA डे सेलिब्रेशन हम लोग कर रहे हैं, और बाकी CA इंस्टीट्यूट की तरफ से जो होगा वो हम करते रहेंगे और आप सबको अपडेट करेंगे। सो विदाउट टेकिंग मच टाइम, ओवर टू जिंदल जी अगेन।
थैंक यू अविनाश जी। वैसे भी ऑन द ईव ऑफ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट डे ही हमने ये प्रोग्राम रखा है। आप सबको चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट डे की एडवांस में बहुत बहुत बधाइयां। और हो सकता है हमारे अविनाश जी जैसे कह रहे हैं स्पुतनिक V की वैक्सीनेशन लगाई है, रशिया का वीजा भी अनाउंस करते हैं पहले जो CA हैं, वो बात की बातें हैं। ओवर टू श्विंकी जी।
सर आपके लिए वीजा ऑन अराइवल करा देंगे जिंदल साहब।
Very good evening, everyone. I welcome everyone. I welcome everyone on board today, and I feel very obliged and highly grateful for the Voice of CA to allow me to be the moderator on the panel today. And it's a great opportunity to be part of such a discussion where I could see and meet so many intellectuals on a virtual screen, which is possible only because of VOCA and all such great initiatives by such intellectual people right there. So without much ado, I'll introduce the man of the hour, CA Rajesh Mehta ji. He needs no introduction. While going through his profile, I was much amazed to see that he is an all-rounder. He's a practicing chartered accountant for since 1996 at Indore mainly, and in the field of direct taxes with practical exposure of more than 25 years. And he's been a speaker on issues of capital gains, search and seizure, penalty and prosecution, TDS and TCS, HUF and tax planning, taxation and registration of religious and charitable trust, faceless assessment, Vivad Se Vishwas scheme, tax audit, union budget, income computation and disclosure standards. I think list is endless, and there is no topic that has been left untouched. As an all-rounder, he has received awards in elocution and debate competitions and awarded by the then Chief Minister of Rajasthan, Shri Haridev Joshi ji and Shri Shiv Charan Mathur ji. And he has achieved rank and merit in higher secondary board examinations Rajasthan and awarded by the Governor of Rajasthan in the year 1985. A good round of applause for a man of such a high intellect and such a great personality. And As we all know that his articles and views of income tax are frequently published in tax newsletters, magazines, and online text forums also. Presently, he is the National Vice President of the All India Federation of Tax Practitioners Central Zone, and he has held the position of Chairman for the year 2018 and 2019. We welcome you, sir, and we are looking forward to hear from you your wisdom, your words full of wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you, Shivji. Respected Sanjay Agarwal ji, R.S. Kalra ji, Ashwini Jindal ji, Ashwini Randeva ji, and Anil Srivastav ji, and all the Avinash ji, and all the active members of Voice of CA, and all the chartered accountant, tax consultant, and participants of today's program. It's my pleasure to discuss some of the important issues on TDS and TCS under the Income Tax Act. My slide is visible? PPT is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay.
Yes, yes, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Everything is good.
Okay, sir. So, important provisions of the TDS starts from the salary TDS provisions. Whenever any employer is required to deduct the TDS from the salary of the employees, always the employees tells that kindly do not deduct the TDS from my salary in the starting 8-9 months. Kindly deduct the TDS only in the last 2-3 months. So employer is always in a fix whether what to do. But as per section 192 subsection 3, if there is any shortfall in TDS or if there is any excess TDS, then it can be adjusted at any time during the whole financial year, but not later than that. There is a judgment of Uttarakhand High Court in the case of CIT versus Enron Expert Services. In that case, Honorable High Court held that even if there is short deduction in any month, even though there will not be any liability of interest on the employer under section 201 subsection 1A in view of section 192 subsection 3. But there is a contrary judgment from Ahmedabad ITAT in the case of Madhya Gujarat Beach Company Limited. In this case, ITAT held that if the reason is not bona fide, reason for short deduction or non-deduction is the not bona fide, then there will be levy of interest under section 201 subsection 1A. So always we should advise our clients to deduct the TDS equally across the whole 12 months. Whether any of the employees required to report his any other income other than the salary to the employer, say for example, any of the employees having income from... Yes,
Rajesh bhai, just to interrupt you.
Yes, yes.
People are still saying that there are multiple voices. May I request all participant panelists to check their device whether YouTube is on parallelly along with the main. If the YouTube is on, kindly switch off that YouTube. Please do not run both from your system, YouTube as well as the Zoom. This is my request, humble request. Thank you, sir. You can continue, sir.
Okay.
Rajesh bhai, continue, please.
Yes, sir. So, if any of the employee is having any other income, say for example, from the capital gains, short-term shares capital gain, or any other FDR interest, whether he is required to report such income to the employer? No, it is not necessary. It is at his choice only. Otherwise, such income can be reported by the employee and shall have to be reported by the employee in his own income tax return. If there is any other rental income, it is also the choice of the employee to report such rental income. But if there is any self-occupied property, then the employee can report his interest paid on borrowed capital to the employer And from the assessment year 2020-21, there has been one relaxation for not only for the salaried employee, for all the taxpayers. If they are having 2 self-occupied houses, even though there will not be any deemed income, up to the 2 residential houses. So even if any of the employees also having 2 residential houses for his self-occupied purposes, even though employer will not take any rent as a deemed, and even the employee will not be required to report any deemed income from rental up to 2 residential houses owned by him for his own personal purposes. What evidences the employer is required to obtain from the employee for allowing the deductions under various sections of the Income Tax Act? For the purpose of section 80C, 80CCC, 80CCD, up to rupees 1.5 lakh, the employer is required to obtain the proof of investments made by the employee for National Pension Scheme, for Mediclaim. For Mediclaim, the employee can also furnish the expenses incurred for his parents. If the parents are senior citizen, even medical expenditure incurred can also be reported to the employer, and employer will have to allow him expenses up to 50,000 in case of senior citizen parents under section 80D. And in case of any medical insurance premium, as we all are aware that it has to be paid through check, not in cash. But we must have to keep in mind also that the employer has to keep in mind that in the case of any employee, he can claim medical insurance premium only for himself, his spouse, and his dependent children. If any of his children is self-employed, his medical insurance premium shall not be allowed by the employer, or neither in his income tax return. 80DD deduction will also have to be allowed by the employer. 80E, if any education loan is taken by the employee for himself, for his own study, for his spouse, for his children, then employer will have to allow him deduction towards interest. Interest is payable always allowable only on payment basis, not on accrual basis in case of 80E. 80EA, acquisition of house property, not more than rupees 45 lakh. This interest of rupees 1.5 lakh will also be allowed to the employee by the employer in his tax computation. If any of the employee has taken any vehicle loan from any financial institution, then any such interest paid up to rupees 1.5 lakh is also allowable under section 80EEB. From the assessment year 2020-21, from the assessment year 2021-22, section 115 BAC has come into force. For the benefit of employees who are not having various investments under section 80C, 80D, etc. If any of the employee or any of the person opts for 115 BAC, he will not be allowed LTC, HRA, standard deduction, professional tax, interest on self-occupied house property, 80C deduction will also not be allowed. 80TTA, 80TB, 80D deductions will not be allowed. 80DD will, 80E, 80EA, 80EB, these deductions will not be allowed to the employee if he is opting for 115 BAC. But for the employees, in case of salaried employee, they can every year change the option of 115 BAC. But if there is any other businessman or any other professional, or if any of the salaried employees also having income from business or profession, then such employee cannot every year change his option of 115 BAC. But if any of the person is not having any income from business or profession, he can every year change this option. 194, dividend. Now dividend has become taxable in the hands of recipient. Any domestic company making any payment of dividend to the resident shareholder exceeding rupees 5,000 in a year is required to deduct the TDS on payment of dividend. During this Finance Act 2021, there has been one relaxation to the pensioners who are of the age of 75 years or more. If they are receiving any pension from any bank and they are having their saving account and fixed deposits in the same bank, then bank will have to deduct the TDS on their FDR and saving account and their pension. And such employee will not be required to file his income tax return separately. This information will be furnished to the income tax department by way of TDS statement to the employer, to the income tax department. So the employee will not be required to file his income tax return. 194A, payment of interest. If any of the bank, cooperative bank or post office is making payment of any interest to any person exceeding rupees 40,000, then such bank, cooperative bank and post office is required to deduct the TDS at the rate of 10%. If any of the cooperative society is making payment of any interest to its members, then such cooperative society is not required to deduct any TDS. But if the gross turnover of such society in the immediately preceding financial year is exceeding rupees 50 crore, then such cooperative society is required to deduct the TDS under 194A on payment of interest to its members. If any of the cooperative bank is making payment of any interest to any other cooperative society, then such cooperative bank is also not required to deduct the TDS on payment of interest to such cooperative society. But if the gross receipt or turnover of such cooperative bank in the immediately preceding financial year is exceeding rupees 50 crore, then such bank will be required to deduct the TDS under 194A on payment of interest to such cooperative society. There is a judgment of Kerala High Court in the favor of a bank in the case of Vembayam Service Cooperative Bank Limited, where it has been held that any payment of interest to any other cooperative society is not liable to TDS under 194A. If any of our client makes payment of interest for delay payment of trade liability, many times we have seen that our clients are making payment to creditors for delay payment of their trade liability. So whether it is covered under 194A, it is liable to TDS? No, it is not liable to TDS because he has not taken any loan. He has made payment of interest only towards the purchase of goods creditors. He has made payment to the creditors. He has not taken any loan or unsecured loan from that material supplier or service provider. So it will not be liable for TDS under 194A because it is also not covered under definition of interest as specified under section 2, clause 28A. There is a judgment of Ahmedabad ITAT in the case of ITO versus Parag Mansukh Lal Shah. Then another important thing, from the 1st September 2019, there has been a provision under section 194A that if any of the bank is making payment of any interest to any person less than rupees 40,000, then such bank is required to report such interest to the income tax department by way of form number 26QAA, because many of the taxpayers makes various FDRs in various banks less than the amount of TDS liability. So they think that I will make an FDR of rupees 4 lakh in one bank. So my interest will be rupees 20,000 per year from one bank. He will make another FDR of rupees 5 lakh in another bank. So he will be receiving interest of rupees 25,000 from another bank. So from each and every bank, his interest per year will be less than 40,000. So bankers will not be deducting TDS. And earlier bankers used not to report such without deducting TDS this amount. So this 26QAA has been introduced in which banker is required to report any of the interest paid to any of the depositors without deducting TDS, even if it is less than rupees 40,000, on which TDS has not been deducted. And many times this TDS, this interest on which TDS has not been deducted is also getting reflected in the form number 26A of the taxpayer or the annual information statement of the taxpayer. So even if any of the interest is not getting reflected presently in the 26A or in the annual information statement, it is the responsibility of the salaried employee or of the taxpayer to report such interest and even interest from saving bank account in his income tax return. Otherwise, he may receive income tax notice. His case may be reopened. So he must voluntarily disclose his all FDR, recurring deposit and saving bank interest to the income tax department by way of his return of income. If any of the state government or central government institution is there, if any of authority has been established by central act or state act, then if such authority is making deposits with any other bank, such bank is not required to deduct any TDS in view of CBDT notification number 170 of the 1970. There is a judgment of Honorable Supreme Court in the case of CIT TDS versus Canara Bank. In this case, Honorable Supreme Court held that Canara Bank did not deduct TDS on payment of interest to New Okhla Industrial Development Authority. Noida is an authority established under State Act. So, in view of that CBDT notification, there is no requirement of deducting any TDS as per provisions of Section 194A, subsection 3, clause Roman 3, subclause F. So, there will not be any requirement of, say, for example, Delhi Development Authority. Delhi Development Authority is an authority established under State Act. If such a Delhi Development Authority makes deposits with any of the bank, then such banker will not be required to deduct any TDS on its fixed deposits in view of judgment of Honorable Supreme Court in the case of CIT TDS versus Canara Bank. There is another judgment on the same issue of the ITT Ahmedabad. In that case, Gujarat State Electricity Corporation had not deducted TDS on payment of interest to Gujarat Urja Vikas Nigam Limited. Then Honorable ITT held that since Gujarat Urja Vikas Nigam Limited is an authority established under State Act, so there is no requirement of deducting any TDS on payment of interest to such undertaking. When HUF for individual is liable to deduct TDS, in addition to Section 192, any individual or HUF is liable to, because under Section 192, even if the turnover is not exceeding 1 crore, if there is any liability, individual and HUF are liable to deduct TDS under Section 192. But in case of Section 194A, 194C, 194H, 194I, 194J, if the turnover of the immediately preceding previous year is exceeding ₹1 crore, then such individual or HUF is required to deduct TDS under these sections. Whether any person can apply for lower rate of TDS? Yes, he can apply for Section 192, 194A, 194C, D, H, I, J. For these sections, the deductee or the recipient can apply for lower rate of certificate to the income tax department. Who can furnish the form number 15G or 15H? If any of the person is in receipt of dividend, then only individual can furnish form number 15G or 15H in case of receipt of dividend. HUF cannot furnish 15G or 15H in case of dividend. But in case of any other interest is being received, or in case of any rent is being received, 194A, 194I, in that case, any individual, HUF, association of persons, body of individual, trust can furnish form number 15G. But here one condition has to be satisfied, that interest and rent from all the sources of that recipient should not exceed ₹2.5 lakh. Say, for example, any of the person is receiving interest from bank ₹1.5 lakh, and he is also in receipt of rental income of ₹2 lakh from a tenant. So his aggregate of interest and rent is exceeding ₹2.5 lakh. In that case, he cannot furnish form number. If any of the charitable or religious institution is claiming exemption under Section 11, is required to file its income tax return under Section 139, subsection 4C. Then, as per Rule 28AB, such trust and institution cannot furnish form number 15G if its interest and rental income from all the sources is exceeding rupees 2.5 lakh. Because many of the times when we go to the bank audits, the bankers show that show a certificate that we are having deposits of 10 crore from this that charitable institution, that religious institution, and that institution has furnished a certificate from Commissioner of Income Tax. That certificate is what? That certificate is the 12AA registration certificate or ATG certificate. So this certificate has no relevance while deciding TDS liability under 194A. That liability has nothing to do with by the bankers. So in view of Rule 28AB, bankers should not accept form number 15G from such trust and institution, and trust and institution should not itself furnish 15G, otherwise they may be liable to prosecution under section 277. Whether senior citizen can furnish 15H? Yes, senior citizen can furnish 15H even if his rental income and aggregate interest income is exceeding rupees 2.5 lakh from all sources. But he has to keep in mind one thing only, that his tax liability should be nil. Say for example, his interest income is rupees 5 lakh from one bank, and he is in receipt of rent of rupees 1.5 lakh from a tenant. So he is in receipt of aggregate income of rent and interest rupees 6.5 lakh. And he has made a tax saving FDR of rupees 1.5 lakh. And he is a super senior citizen of the age of 80 years or more. Then his tax liability will be nil, because he is super senior citizen. Up to 5 lakh he is not liable to pay tax, and other persons are also not liable to tax up to rupees 5 lakh. In that case, such senior citizen is not is allowed to furnish form number 15G because his tax liability is nil. Whereas in case of person who is not a senior citizen, who is of the age of less than 60 years, his tax liability should be nil, and second condition, his aggregate interest and rent should be less than rupees 2.5 lakh. Works contract. In case of works contract, advertising, broadcasting, carriage of goods or passenger by any mode of transport other than by railway, catering services, or manufacturing or supplying a product according to requirement or specification of a customer by using material purchased from such customer or its associate are covered under 194C. If any of the person is giving any order to any material supplier as per his specification, and such material is purchased by that supplier from the outside of the market, not from the person who is giving the order himself. There is a judgment of Delhi High Court in the case of CIT versus Dabur India Limited. Dabur India Limited given a contract to a person for supply of printed packing material as per the specification given by the Dabur India Limited. That printed packing material was in the nature of a works contract. So the CIT told that this is liable to TDS under 194C. And the assessee Dabur India Limited told that since this is a contract for sale, this is not a works contract, therefore we are not liable to deduct the TDS. Honorable High Court held that since this is a contract of sale, this is not a works contract, because the raw material purchased by such supplier has been purchased by from the outside of the market, and it has not been supplied by the Dabur India Limited itself. So it is not covered under 194C. Another important thing under 194C is the payment to the transporters. This is very important provision. If any of the person owns 10 or less goods carriages at any time during the year, and he furnishes a declaration to this effect to the person who is making the payment of freight, then TDS under 194C is not required to be deducted. But such information, only TDS has not been deducted in view of section 194C subsection 6, is required to be reported under in the form number 26Q. So here we see that the condition is 10 or less goods carriage at any time during the year. It means even if any of the goods carriage owners, he is having 15 trucks with him during any time during the year, but at the end of the year, or say in the month of March, he sell 6 trucks. So now he is having only 9 trucks at any time during the year. So he can furnish a self-declaration to the person who is making payment of interest to him. But here another important thing is that many of our clients are doing mistakes or may do mistakes that we never directly engage trucks or truck owners in most of the cases. Say for example, from Delhi, anyone wants to send goods to Chennai. He wants 100 trucks to send his goods from his factory to the Chennai. So any of the industrialist will never order 100 truck owners directly to transport his goods to the Chennai. Always such industries engages transport commission agent. We always make payment to the transport commission agent, and such transport commission himself will engage such 100 trucks. So we have nothing to do with such truck owners. In that case, if we are making payment to the transport commission agent, in that case 194C will be applicable. We cannot take shelter of this. Even if many times we are making payment to the truck owner, but we are making payment to the truck owner or the goods carriage owner on behalf of their transport commission agent. Because when in the transit goods is lost or goods has been delayed, or if any of the claim or if any of the case, if any of the FIR in the police we have to lodge, we will lodge against their transport commission agent because we had not done any contract with that goods carriage owner. So we must keep in mind that if we have not done any contract with the goods carriage owner, we cannot accept the self-declaration from that goods carriage owner, but that transport commission agent can accept the declaration from such goods carriage owners. There is an interesting judgment of ITAT Chennai in the case of Sivavalli Vilas Jewellers Private Limited. In that case, the jeweler used to make payment of gold making charges, gold jewelry making charges to the goldsmith. He paid 1% gold jewelry making charges by way of check to such goldsmiths. In addition to this amount, the assessing officer held that the assessee is also making payment of gold bullion by way of jewelry making charges on which TDS has not been deducted by the Sivavalli Jewellers Private Limited. The jewelers had given 1 kg of gold bullion to the goldsmith. When the goldsmith prepared the jewelry, the goldsmith returned 940 grams. The goldsmith returned the 940 grams of jewelry. He retained 60 grams of jewelry by way of wastage. The goldsmith told to the jeweler that always there is about 60% of the wastage, 6 grams of the wastage, or 6% of the wastage, that is 60 grams per 1 kg is the wastage. So he retained 60 grams or it was wasted. The assessing officer told that this 60 grams upon per 1 kg is the indirectly wages paid by the Sivavalli Jewellers on which TDS has not been deducted. So this amount will have to be disallowed under section 40A(1)(a), 40A Roman 1A. So the ITAT told that since no amount has been debited by way of labor charges or by way of making charges in the profit and loss account and trading account of that jewelers, so there is no liability of TDS and there cannot be any disallowance because section 40A(1)(a) say that any of the expenditure debited by the assessee, claimed by the assessee. And here
मेहता जी सॉरी और डिस्टर्ब कर रहा हूँ, गिरीशु जी ज्वाइन कर चुके हैं हमारे, स्वामी रामदेव जी के पास थे तो वहीं से ज्वाइन किया है सर ने।
सर इट्स माय प्लेजर सर हमारे गुरुजी आए हैं, ये हमारे लिए बहुत। तो अब आगे की स्लाइड्स हम रेस्पेक्टेड हमारे गिरीश आहूजा साहब को सुनने के बाद हम आगे की स्लाइड कंटिन्यू करेंगे। गुरुजी का आशीर्वाद मिल गया तो हम वैसे ही विद्वान बनेंगे। सो नाउ आई स्टॉप माय स्क्रीन शेयरिंग।
अश्विनी रणदेव जी को जो हमारे मॉडरेटर हैं कि वो अभी गुरुजी का स्वागत करें और कालड़ा जी की बुक गुरुजी के हाथों रिलीज कराएं। आज तो शुभ हाथों से रिलीज होगी कि गुरुजी भी स्वामी जी की उधर बैठे हैं हरिद्वार में, स्वामी रामदेव जी के पास।
उनसे निकल के कहीं और जा रहे हैं हम।
सर प्रणाम जी,
प्रणाम 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 जी रजनी रंगदेव जी, क्या हाल?
बढ़िया बढ़िया सर। हमारे आज के वक्ता
आई है बोली 3 मिनट है, 3 मिनट
सर आई विल बी वेरी क्विक। तो आज एक बहुत ऑस्पिशियस डे है कि एक हमारे कालरा साहब का जन्मदिन भी है और एक इन्होंने एक बहुत अच्छी किताब लिखी है जो इनकी जो किताब मुझे पता है कि जब आएगी ये ई बुक है तो सब देखेंगे कि ये इतनी अच्छी तरह लिखी हुई है कि जो जिसको इनकम टैक्स पूरी तरह नहीं भी आता ना वो भी इसको समझ लेगा। और आज वो होगी भी गुरुजी के हाथों से रिलीज। और उससे पहले मैं 2 मिनट लूंगा कि मैं कालरा साहब को हम इकट्ठे हैं सिंस 1983। तो मतलब इट हैज बीन अराउंड 38 इयर्स जब हम इकट्ठे देख रहे हैं। तो ये जो इनकी एक जो छुपी हुई कला थी इसको मैं कहूंगा कि ये गुरुजी के साथ मिलने से ना वो ज्यादा निखर के आई है। और इन्होंने धीरे धीरे खासकर ये पेंडेमिक में और जब थे इन्होंने ये किताबें लिखने का सिलसिला शुरू किया तो हम इनको जब 83-84 की बात है तो हम इनको तब भी मास्टर जी कहते थे, तो कि ये तब भी ऐसी ऐसी चीजें ढूंढ के लाते थे कि जिसमें हम सभी को सीए करने में बहुत मदद की है। और आज ये वही काम हमारे सब मेंबर्स के लिए कर रहे हैं। तो ज्यादा टाइम ना लेते हुए तो आई विल रिक्वेस्ट के जो इन्होंने आज किताब ली, इससे पहले एक और बता दूं कि आज इनका जन्मदिन भी है और हमारे ईश्वर से प्रार्थना है कि ऐसे ही एंथुजियाज्म से मोटिवेशन से ये हम सबके साथ चलें और नई नई किताबें लिखें और हमें मार्गदर्शन भी करते रहें, हमें अपना प्यार भी देते रहें। और अब मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा गुरुजी से कि ये जो किताब इन्होंने लिखी है वो हम सबको रिलीज करें और हमको लाभान्वित करें। और विद दैट आई रिक्वेस्ट everybody in the VOCA to release the book.
I think Gurleen will do the honors.
गुरलीन जो हमारे क्या लो जोआई राजा भी हैं, हमारे बच्चे भी हैं, we request him कि इसको फॉर्मली रिलीज करवाएं गुरुजी के हाथ।
थैंक यू सो मच रणदेव अंकल। मेरे ख्याल से ना मैं बहुत छोटा बच्चा हूँ, गिरीश सर ही करेंगे तो मैं
तो
बिल्कुल
पर हेल्प बच्चों की लेनी पड़ती है।
स्क्रीन डिजिटली हेल्प करो आप।
हाँ जी अश्विनी सर एक बार आपको साथ में करना पड़ेगा, पावर का इशू था।
शेयरिंग नहीं हो रही ना?
नहीं हो रही सर, आप करो मत।
1 मिनट शेयरिंग अलाउ करता हूँ। शेयरिंग ऑल पैनलिस्ट कर दिया, अभी देखो अभी हो जाएगी।
सर आप करो वहां से। ये अभी ना पावर ऑफ हुआ तो मोबाइल पे लॉगिन किया जस्ट नाउ।
कर दिया अलाउ मैंने सभी पैनलिस्ट को ना शेयरिंग।
आपने करनी है अश्विनी, आप करो।
नहीं मैं क्या करूं?
उसका वो मोबाइल से है वो।
नहीं मेरे पास है, बुक भेजोगे तो करूंगा।
काला जी देखो आप,
काला जी को तो मैंने कहा था मेरे पास आ जाओ।
आ गई है सर,
आ गई।
सबसे पहले मैं बोलूं जी?
हाँ जी गुरु जी बोलो।
हाँ जी सर। सबसे पहले मैं कालरा जी को, आर.एस. कालरा जी को आज जन्मदिन पर हार्दिक बधाई देता हूँ और ये पुस्तक का विमोचन कर कर मैं एक शुभकामना करता हूँ कि कालरा जी दिन दूनी रात चौगनी तरक्की करें। इन्होंने पहले भी कई किताबें लिखी हैं लेकिन मुझे लगता है ये फुल फॉर्म में किताब आई है। कालरा जी से एक ही रिक्वेस्ट है, किताब को रेगुलरली रिवाइज भी करते रहें और स्पीकर ये बहुत अच्छे बन सकते हैं, पता नहीं क्यों नहीं स्पीकर बनना चाहते। कालरा जी आप इतनी मेहनत करते हैं मुझे पता है और मैंने देखा आपके पहले भी काम जो देखे आपने बहुत अच्छे 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 जो आर्टिकल मुझे भेजे थे और मैंने वो पढ़े थे। तो मैं करूंगा कालरा जी कहना शुरू कर दे, सिर्फ पीछे कालरा जी आगे आना पड़ेगा आपको, ये मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ। और आप बहुत अच्छी तरह, मुझे पता है जब आप चेयरमैन थे जलंधर ब्रांच के और आप कितना अच्छा बोलते थे, कितना अच्छा लिखते थे, मुझे सब याद है। तो मैं ये कहूंगा कालरा जी को आज बहुत बहुत बधाई है। जितने भी लोग मेरे सामने बैठे हैं मैं उनको कहूंगा एक तालियां बधाई दें उनकी। सर तालियां मार दीजिए, शुभकामना करिए। मुझे बहुत खुशी हुई है और मैंने थोड़ा सा देखा था, टाइम कम मिला और कालरा जी ने बहुत अच्छा अटेम्प्ट किया है। आजकल जो ये अटेम्प्ट होता है ये इजी टू अंडरस्टैंड होता है, इजीली सामने एक पिक्चर फ्रेम आ जाती है और वो मैंने देखा उनका और ये आई। और हो सकता है कि कुछ चीजें कॉपी भी मैं कर लूं अपनी किताब पे और कालरा जी से पूछ के करूंगा, ये चिंता नहीं करिए।
नहीं सर आपको पूछने की जरूरत नहीं है सर, आप तो देने वाले हो।
कालरा साहब को बहुत बधाई, अच्छी शानदार किताब, इंडिया में पूरे इंडिया में हर आदमी की ये काम आएगी।
इसे कह रहा हूँ कालरा कर रहे हैं, मैं रियली कह रहा हूँ किताब लिखने मुश्किल है, कितनी चीजें देखनी पड़ती हैं और क्या क्या होता है उसमें। लेकिन मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ ये बहुत अच्छा अटेम्प्ट आपने किया है। और मैं सुन रहा था अभी स्पीकर साहब को जो 194A चल रहा था तब मैंने ज्वाइन किया था, लेकिन मैं आज अटेंडी ज्वाइन किया था। अब बाद में मेरी अभी अश्विनी जी से बात हुई तो मैंने किया। तो मैं सबके तरफ से अपनी तरफ से हार्दिक बधाई जो आपने को, सिर्फ किताब के विमोचन के लिए नहीं, आपका जन्मदिन और भगवान करे आपकी लंबी रहो, सेहतमंद रहे और योगा भी जरा करते रहे तो अच्छा रहेगा। और कालरा जी सेवा भी करते हैं, मैं डेरे में जाते हैं और वहां पर भी उनका काफी सेवा करते हैं और वो सेवा भी करते रहे। मेरा इतना ही आशीर्वाद है और इतना ही आपके साथ शुभकामनाएं। बस जी कालरा जी,
थैंक यू
सर। मैं जा सकता हूँ करता जी?
धन्यवाद सर, आपने आके आशीर्वाद भी दिया और कालरा जी की बुक भी रिलीज की। और ये जैसे आपने कहा इट्स जस्ट ए बिगिनिंग, तो ही कैन बी ए वेरी वेरी गुड स्पीकर ऑल्सो। और आपके आशीर्वाद और कृपा से ये काम भी इनको शुरू करा देना।
चलो थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू। आपने मतलब पवित्र धरती ऋषिकेश और हरिद्वार से आपने कर दी आज। थैंक यू
सर।
धन्यवाद सर, करता जी धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू सर।
मेरे माफी चाहूंगा लेकिन बड़ी सडनली एकदम आना पड़ गया। हाँ जी चलो।
कालरा जी स्क्रीन अनशेयर कर दो। कालरा जी स्क्रीन अनशेयर कर दो। यस
संजय जी
सर, बहुत बहुत कालरा जी मुबारकें। आई थॉट नाउ वी कैन कंटिन्यू।
बहुत बधाई कालरा साहब। सो
थैंक यू।
टेकरीवाल जी को भी नमस्कार। अब राजेश मेहता जी आप कंटिन्यू करें सर।
यस सर।
नमस्कार सर।
So in that case, the assessing officer told that this 60 gram is the wages paid by the Sivavalli jewelers. Even though the ITAT held that since no amount has been debited in the profit and loss account, so the conditions of 194C are not fulfilled, because 194C says that at the time of payment or credit, whichever is earlier, neither any payment has been made by way of debiting or crediting in the profit and loss account or in the account of the goldsmith. Therefore, ITAT held that this cannot be any, there cannot be any disallowance under 194C in section 40A(1)(a). Then as regards 194C, there is another judgment of Honorable Bombay High Court in the case of CIT TDS versus Asian Heart Care Institute. The said institute had given contract of repairs and maintenance of its various valuable machines. These machines were of so many millions of rupees, and only technical expert could repair and maintain these machineries. Therefore, CIT it is liable to TDS under 194J, because only the technical experts, engineers can maintain these machineries. But Honorable High Court held that since the contract of repairs and maintenance has been given, it is the lookout of the company to whom the maintenance contract has been given. That company is to engage the technical expert. The Asian Heart Care Institute has not directly taken services of any of the technical expert. They have given AMC to that service provider company. Therefore, there is no direct contract and no technical services have been provided directly by any of the engineer to that Asian Heart Care Institute. So it is not covered under 194J. It is only the repairs and maintenance services covered under 194C. (194H). When we see the whether there is any liability under 194H regarding TDS on payment of commission, then we have to see that there must be principal to agent relationship. If there is principal to principal relationship, then there will not be any liability of TDS under 194H. There is a judgment of Delhi ITAT in the case of Nokia India Limited. And at the same line, there is a judgment of Honorable Karnataka High Court in the case of Bharti Airtel. In that case, Bharti Airtel had sold its SIM cards to the various distributors, and distributors in turn sold these SIM cards to the ultimate users. Bharti Airtel sold the SIM cards at a discount. Say, for example, the SIM card of ₹100 was sold to the distributor at ₹97. Then the assessing officer told that the amount of ₹3 discount is in the form of commission and liable to TDS under 194H. Karnataka High Court held that since it is not a commission, the distributor who has purchased the SIM card is free to sell this SIM card to the ultimate buyer at whatsoever price he wants. He may sell this SIM card of ₹100 at less than ₹1. So he may sell it at ₹99. And if there is any bad debt, so if there is any credit sales, this is all the responsibility of the distributor. Therefore, Bharti Airtel is not responsible for the ultimate sale of this SIM card. So there is no principal to agent relationship. So it is not covered under 194H. If any of the person makes payments for advertisement in any print or electronic media, if such person who is giving payment for advertisement in any print or electronic media to any advertising agency, then such ultimate user is required to deduct TDS under 194C from that advertising agency. But when any advertising agency makes payments to the media company or to the electronic advertising company, then such advertising agency is not required to deduct any TDS, nor any media company is required to deduct the TDS from that advertising agency, because they also having principal to principal relationship. There is a CBDT circular in this regard also, as per the in view of the judgment of Honorable Allahabad High Court in the case of Jagran Prakashan Limited. There is another judgment of ITAT Mumbai in the case of Tata Sky Limited. Tata Sky Limited sold various set-top boxes, hardware, recharge vouchers to their distributors. In turn, the distributors sell these set-top boxes, hardwares, recharge vouchers, coupons, etc. to their ultimate consumers. So the Tata Sky and distributor are principal to principal relationship, because distributor is also free to sell these set-top boxes or recharge coupon at whatsoever price he wants. Tata Sky has no control over the price of the set-top boxes or recharge vouchers or coupons. Then ITAT Mumbai held that since there is principal to principal relationship, so even if any discount is allowed by Tata Sky to the distributors, that discount is not covered under 194H. There is a judgment of ITAT Delhi in the case of SRL Limited. SRL Limited has so many franchisees across the India for collecting samples for pathological tests. Various franchisees, various pathological labs across the India collects the samples and send to SRL. The pathology charges the amount whatever is prescribed by the SRL, and the pathology give certain amount to the SRL. Say for example, SRL has told that for this blood test we will charge ₹1,000 from that pathology, and that pathology will charge ₹1,300 from the patient. Then this ₹300 is whether any commission covered under 194H. No, ITAT Delhi held that SRL and pathology both are principal to principal relationship. Here, any bad debts or credit or discount allowed by pathology to the ultimate consumer, ultimate user, ultimate the patient is only the discretion of that local pathology. So there is no commission paid by SRL to the pathology. It is not covered under 194H. If any of the person has paid any brokerage or commission for sale of its immobile property, then such brokerage or commission whether covered under 194H? No. Since section 40A(1)(a) is applicable only in the case of computation of income from business and profession. It is not applicable for computation of income from sale of immobile property or not applicable from computation of income from capital gain. Therefore, there will not arise any liability for sale of any immobile property on commission basis. Commission is not disallowable under 194H 40A(1)(a). In case of Jet Airways, many of the banks and credit card agencies retain certain commission in case of the online booking of the tickets. Jet Airways did not deduct TDS on such commission. Bombay High Court held that this is not the commission covered under 194H, so no TDS liability arises in this case. 194I. If there are more than one owners, then limit of rupees 2,40,000 is applicable per owner. Say for example, there are 4 co-owners and they are having definite share, and in the rent agreement in their property documents, their co-ownership ratio is specifically defined. Then limit of rupees 2,40,000 is applicable per co-owner. There is a judgment of ITT Mumbai in the case of DCIT TDS versus Bank of India. Bank of India had taken a property on long-term lease. Long-term lease are generally of the 30 years or of the 99 years. So we may assume here the property was of the 30 years or more. To take the property on lease, we have to pay 2 types of charges. First is the upfront lease charges, which is one-time charges which are taken at the first time, which is called the lease premium. And on yearly basis, we have to make payment of lease rent. Yearly lease rent is subjected to TDS under 194I, but any upfront charges which are paid at the initial agreement of the lease transaction, then it is not covered under 194I. ITT Mumbai held that such upfront lease charges are not covered under 194I, and CBTT had also issued a circular in this regard. There is a judgment of ITT Ahmedabad in the case of Bachchu Bhai Jivanlal Soni. That assessee had given a contract of export exhibition and made certain payment to Gems and Jewelry Export Promotion Council. The state assessee deducted TDS under 194C. The assessing officer told that you have to deduct the TDS under section 194J because exhibition management is covered under 194J as has been told by the assessing officer. ITT told that whether it is covered under 194C or 194J, that is a different issue. But if there has been any deduction either under 194C or under 194J, but deduction has been made by the assessee, only there is a problem or only there is an issue that there is a short deduction. So such short deduction is not covered under 40A(1)(a) because, say for example, under section 194J there was liability of 10% and the assessee had deducted 2% of the TDS. So whether 80% of the expenses will be disallowed or 30% of this 80% will be disallowed? No. If the deduction has been made, there can be only liability of interest under section 201 subsection 1A for short deduction, and there can be penalty under section 271 capital C if any, but there cannot be any disallowance, there cannot be any proportionate disallowance for short deduction. There is a judgment on the same issue in the case of CIT versus SK Tekriwal by Honorable High Court of Calcutta. 194IA. If any of the person purchases any immobile property, not being the rural agricultural land, of rupees 50 lakh or more then he is required to deduct TDS at the rate of 1% on every advance payment and at the time of registry, whichever is earlier. But TDS is not required to be deducted in the case of rural agricultural land. Many of the taxpayer commits mistake that they do not deduct TDS in case of purchase of the urban agricultural land. Say for example, in Jalandhar, the population if exceeding 10 lakh, if population of Jalandhar is more than 10 lakh, then if any of the agricultural land is situated within 8 kilometers from the end of the municipal limit of Jalandhar, then such agricultural land which is situated within 8 kilometers from the end of the municipal limit of Jalandhar, it will be urban agricultural land. And even if there is agricultural activities on that land, but it is urban agricultural land, so it will be covered under 194 IA. If any land is situated beyond 8 kilometers from the end of the municipal limit of the city, then such land will be treated as rural agricultural land. It is not liable to income tax and not liable to TDS under 194 IA. If there are more than one buyer, more than one seller, then we can see the limit per buyer or per seller in view of the judgment of Delhi ITAT and ITAT Jodhpur. 194 IB. If any of the person is making payment of any rent to any person, say for example, any person is living in Delhi and he is a student, he is making payment of rent of rupees 50,000 or more per month to a flat owner, then such student is required to deduct TDS at the rate of 5% under section 194 IB, even if he is not having any turnover, even if he is a salaried employee. TDS under 194J. 194J, professional services. What are the professional services? Professional services are covered under section 44AA subsection 1. If any of the services are not covered under 44AA subsection 1, then such amount is not professional services. Say for example, any of the teacher or professor is going for teaching in any college or any coaching institute. He is being called a professor. Then whether any such payment made by coaching class or colleges to such professor is covered under 194J? No. Teaching is not a profession covered under 194J. Teaching may be profession, but it is not covered under 194J. CA, doctor, engineer, advocate, architecture, or film artist or advertising profession are only covered under 194J. Telesolution had purchased one software on which the Telesolution did not deduct the TDS. Honorable High Court of Karnataka held that the assessing officer disallowed the depreciation. Proportionate depreciation was disallowed for non-deduction of TDS. High Court held that disallowance under section 40A1A can be made only in the case when any expenditure has been debited or claimed in the profit and loss account or in the trading account. Since the depreciation is an allowance, depreciation is not an expenditure. Therefore, there cannot be any disallowance even if TDS has not been deducted under 194J. There is a judgment of ITAT Mumbai in the case of Red Chillies Entertainment Private Limited. That company had made payment to film artists in the form of kind. The film was very successful, or the film was completed within more than before the specified time. Therefore, the film producer, therefore the Red Chilli Entertainment, given valuable gifts in kind to the film artist. The assessing officer told that this gift amount is liable for TDS under 194J and there will be disallowance. ITAT Mumbai held that since no amount has been paid or credited in the account of the film artist in the books of the Red Chillies Entertainment, the Red Chilli Entertainment has directly debited the film production expenses. Neither the account of the film artist has been credited nor the account of the film artist has been debited in the books of the Red Chilli Entertainment. So it is not liable for disallowance under 40A1A. Reliance Life Insurance had given payment for storage of data, scanning of documents, processing charges, call center operation. The assessing officer held that these amounts are professional services. But Honorable Bombay High Court clearly held that these amounts are in the nature of contract and covered only under 194C. There is no managerial services and there is no technical services, so 194J will not be applicable. In that case, 194C will only be applicable here. There is a judgment of ITAT Mumbai in the case of Kinetic Advertising Private Limited. In that case, the person who was a contractor had given a form number, a lower rate certificate to that company. The company had received this certificate, say for example, of rupees 2 crore. But during the year, the payment of rupees 3 crore was made to the recipient at a lower rate. So the assessing officer held that assessing officer disallowed rupees 1 crore and made disallowance under section 40A1A of rupees 1 crore. ITAT held that the lower rate certificate is person specific and it is not amount specific. If therefore, even if any short deduction has been made, any lower deduction has been made in view of the lower rate certificate, any amount paid over and above the lower rate certificate amount specified in that certificate will not be disallowed because the certificate is person specific, it is not amount specific. 194 LA. If there is any compulsory acquisition of any immobile property under the RFCT LAR Act, then it is exempt under section 96 of the RFCT LAR Act. Say for example, any of the residential property, any of the industrial land or urban land, or any immobile property has been acquired under RFCT LAR Act, then any amount received by recipient is exempted under section 96 of RFCT LAR Act. Then there will not be any liability of TDS under 194 LA also. If any of the individual is making payment towards works contract to any contractor, even if such individual or HUF is not liable to tax audit or his turnover is not exceeding rupees 1 crore in the immediately preceding previous year, even though such person is liable to TDS under section 194M. Say for example, any salaried employee has given a contract of rupees 1 crore to a contractor with material to construct a residential house, to construct a residential bungalow for that salaried employee. If amount paid during one financial year is exceeding rupees 50 lakh, then TDS at the rate of 5% is required to be deducted on whole amount of rupees 1 crore during one financial year. Now comes the very important section 190, effective from 1st July 2021, just from tomorrow, or say from today night after 12 o'clock, this section will become effective, which has done so many, raised so many of the queries across the India. The four important sections, three important sections, 194Q, 206AB, 206CCA are going to become applicable from tonight itself. And 206C1H itself has become applicable from 1st October 2020. But many of the persons are thinking that the section 206C1H, which was applicable from 1st October 2020, is going to become inapplicable from 1st July 2021. But this is wrong perception. I will discuss in my next slide. Because 194Q and 206C1H both are parallel section and always will run parallel, and both will be applicable in every case. So we are not to forget 206C1H anytime. On which case the 194Q will be applicable. If any of the person is having turnover or gross receipts exceeding rupees 10 crore in the immediately preceding financial year, exceeding rupees 10 crore, and he purchases goods of rupees 50 lakh or more in one previous year from a resident seller, then such purchaser is required to deduct TDS at the rate of 0.1% from the seller on amount exceeding rupees 50 lakh. Many of the person are thinking that what will be the revenue generated by the government from this so much small amount of 0.1%. There is no section in TDS or TCS which has so less TDS or TCS rate. every section has rate of TDS or TCS of 1% or more. This is the only section which has least rate of TDS. So the intention of the government is not to earn the revenue from this section. Intention of the government, in my opinion, is only to collect the data, and this data, I think, may be utilized by the GST department. And main intention of the GST department is to track the fake invoices which are in billions and millions of rupees across the India. Many times we read in the newspaper and in the news the fake invoices of 100 crore has been detected by the GST department, and in these fake invoices cases, the purchasers make purchases, say for example of rupees 10 crore, he has made purchases during 1 year, but he does not make any payment, or he make payment, say for example of rupees 1 crore only, because the purchaser knows that I have not taken any physical delivery of goods, so I am not required to make any payment to the supplier. This payment is only the dummy payment. So whenever I will be having any ease of fund, I will make him payment after 2-3 years or 4 years, or I will not make any payment because no one can track me. So to track these transactions, because in the GST there is also one provision. If any of the seller has made sale of any goods or services to any of the buyer, then if the buyer does not make payment within 6 months, then such seller is required to reverse the ITC if the payment has not been received within 6 months. But seller knows very well that he has issued only the fake invoice, he has not sold the physical goods, so he is also not to recover the amount, and therefore even after lapse of 6 months, even after lapse of 1 year, 2-3 years, he does not reverse the ITC, he does not press to collect the money. Therefore, I think to track these transactions, 194Q and 260C1H has been made applicable. There are 2 exceptions under section 194Q in which 194Q will not be applicable. First condition is the tax is deductible under any of the provision of this act. May be possible section 194C may be applicable in any case of the purchases of the goods, because there is some exception under section 194C where even 194C becomes applicable on purchase of the goods supplied as per the requirement and specification of the customer. Then in that case 194Q will not be applicable. Another condition is that if any of the TCS is collectible under any of the provision of section 206C except section 206C1H, then also TDS is not required to be deducted under 194Q. But in both these cases, the person who is purchasing the goods is required to report, is required to inform such purchase transactions and their amount in form number 26Q. These are the points. This is the format of the new 26Q as per which is as per 194Q subsection 5. He will have to mention here the region when we will be going to file the 26Q TDS statement for the second quarter in the month of October. We will have to fill up these columns. Here you are seeing the C note 1 to 15. Reason for non-deduction. So on this, in this 1 to 15, we may see here this 14 number point. Here write S if no deduction is in view of provisions of section 194Q subsection 5. So here this section is that whether you have not deducted TDS in view of 194C or section 206C subsection 1 or subsection 1F, then you are required to report those transactions here in this 26Q TDS statement. Therefore, the government wants reporting, even if no TDS is made, but reporting is compulsorily required and which will be checked by the tax auditor at the time of completing the tax audit. Otherwise, the tax auditor will also give his negative report. Whether the turnover of rupees 10 crore is required to include GST? No. This 10 crore is required to be considered excluding the GST. Section 145A says that indirect taxes will have to be included, but it says only for the purpose of determining the income chargeable to tax. This does not say that for the purpose of maintaining the books of accounts or for the purpose of maintaining the trading account, profit and loss account, that indirect taxes will be included. Section 145A nowhere says this point. Therefore, GST will be excluded to determine the limit of rupees 10 crore. If, say, for example, any of the person is having turnover of rupees 9 crore during financial year 2020-21, he had collected GST of rupees 1.62 crore. Aggregate turnover including GST is 10.62 crore, even though he is not covered under 194Q because his turnover excluding GST was rupees 9 crore during the preceding financial year. Whether the limit of rupees 50 lakh is including GST or not. So in that point I will discuss in my next slide. Here we are to discuss, because this provision is going to applicable from 1st July. So whether we are to include the turnover, whether to include the purchases made between 1st April to 30th June to include in this rupees 50 lakh. Yes. If any of the purchases has been made between the 1st April to 30th June, we are to include those purchases also to determine the limit of rupees 50 lakh. And this 50 lakh, we every year, first 50 lakh will not be subjected to TDS under 194Q. So every year, starting 50 lakh has to be excluded under 194Q as well as under section 260C1H. Whether rupees 50 lakh is inclusive of GST or exclusive of GST, this 50 lakh will be inclusive of GST in my opinion, because there is a severity circular number 23/2017, but that circular is only in respect of services. Therefore, until and unless any new circular come from severity, we cannot exclude GST on goods, because they have clearly used, this is the extract of the severity circular number 23/2017, where they have mentioned the word GST on services component. So we cannot include the goods, GST on goods. We have to include the GST for the purpose of determining and for the purpose of deducting TDS under 194Q. Say for, I am taking here one example. We have purchased goods of rupees 55 lakh on which GST has been charged of rupees 9.9 lakh. Total invoice value is 64.9 lakh. So first 50 lakh we are not required to deduct TDS. On next to 14.9 lakh we are required to deduct TDS of rupees 1,490 at the rate of 0.1%. And in this case, we have purchased the goods in the month of July. The payment for these goods has been made in the month of December 2021. But we are required to deduct the TDS itself in the month of July, not in the month of December. If we have made payment for goods before 1st July 2021, but goods have been received on or after 1st July, whether we are liable to TDS? No, because one event has occurred before 1st July. Or say for example, we have made payment before 1st July, but we have received goods on or after 1st July, whether we are required to deduct TDS? No, since one event of the payment or credit, whichever is earlier, since payment has occurred before 1st July, so we are not required to deduct TDS in that case also. When we are required to deposit this TDS, all other provisions are same here. In the 194Q also, we are required to deposit this TDS within 7 days from the end of the month. And if TDS is deducted in the month of March, TDS will have to be deposited up to 30th April. Challan number 281 is applicable here also. And the code number for depositing the challan will be 94Q. And TDS statement, there is no new TDS statement. We will have to insert the information in the form number 26Q itself. What will happen if any of the buyer fails to deduct the TDS? If any of the buyer fails to deduct the TDS, then 30% of the purchases value will be disallowed under section 40A Roman 1A. Because say for example, the buyer has purchased the goods from a seller whose turnover is not more than rupees 2 crore. Therefore, that seller will file his income tax return under section 44 AD, and such person can file his income tax return up to 31st December also. And the audit, the person who is the buyer, he has to file his ITR up to audit due date, that is 31st October 2021. Or say in the next year, that will be 31st October 2022. So if the seller has filed his income tax return after 31st October 2022, even if you have obtained form number 26A, that amount 30% of the purchase value will be disallowed during the current year and will be allowed in the next financial year, because the seller has filed his income tax return after your due date of filing of income tax return. So current year it will be disallowed and will be allowed in the next year, because 26A says that the date of filing of income tax return by the recipient will be treated as date of payment of TDS by the buyer. Whether any SEZ is liable to TDS under 194Q? Yes, SEZ is liable to TDS under 194Q. Whether if the buyer is doing TDS under 194Q, is there any responsibility of the seller under 260(1)(h) if he is also having turnover exceeding rupees 10 crore in the preceding year? Yes, seller is not required to collect TCS, but seller is required to report this transaction in 27EQ. Whether TDS under 194Q is required at the time of advance payment also? Yes. Whether TDS under 194Q is applicable on agriculture products or GST exempted items? Yes. It is also applicable on agriculture products or GST exempted items, even if these are exempted from GST. Whether 194Q is applicable on purchase of plant and machinery? Yes, it is also applicable, because these are the goods. Even if any of the person is not dealing in this, any of the industry is purchasing plant and machinery, the industry is dealing other PVC items or any other UPVC items, etc. But that industry is purchasing plant and machinery for its industry purpose, since it is a goods, because the act nowhere says that goods being traded by the assessee, nowhere mentioned. So any of the goods is covered under 194Q. If any of the person is purchasing any land and building, it is covered under 194Q? No. Since immobile property is not a goods as per Sale of Goods Act, it is not covered under 194Q. But if any of the purchaser is purchasing any cement, bricks, sand, iron or steel, such builder or colonizer, or any of the person purchasing any cement, bricks, etc. for construction of any immobile property, then it is a goods for such buyer, so it is covered under 194Q. I am taking here one example to compare the responsibility under 194Q as well as 206C(1)(h). Here I have taken an example that the person is purchasing goods of rupees 75 lakh rupees. The seller is having turnover of rupees 2 crore in preceding financial year, but buyer is having turnover of rupees 20 crore. That is exceeding rupees 10 crore in the immediately preceding financial year. Therefore, only the buyer will be covered under 194Q. There will be no responsibility of the seller under 260(1)(h). Here the seller has turnover of rupees 50 crore. Buyer has turnover of only rupees 5 crore. Buyer will not be responsible because his turnover of preceding year is less than 10 crore. But seller is covered under 260(1)(h). Buyer and seller both have turnover exceeding rupees 10 crore. Then whether both will be covered? No, both will not be covered, but buyer first responsibility will be of the buyer. Buyer will have to deduct TDS under 194Q, and seller will not be required to collect any TCS amount under section 261(h), but seller will have to report this transaction in his 27EQ TCS statement. If the buyer and seller both have turnover less than rupees 10 crore, then both will not be covered under 194Q or 206C(1)(h), even if transaction between them is exceeding rupees 50 lakh during one financial year. 195. Payment for any sum chargeable to tax in India. If we are making any payment to any non-resident for any sum chargeable to tax in India. So my TCS discussion regarding 261H and 206AB will come in next slides. So here I am discussing in brief the 195 transactions. Any sum chargeable to tax in India in case of any payment to the non-resident. If such sum is chargeable in India, then it is liable to TDS under 195. Many of our clients purchases immobile properties, and many times it happens that the seller is non-resident. In that case, TDS liability will come under 195 and will not be covered under 194 IA. And this 195 discussion is too long, so I am skipping, and this will be available to you in my slides, and my PPT will be shared to you by our Sanjay Agarwal ji, Ashwini ji, Kalra ji. I have given to them my PPT, so they will share with you. So I am saving your time.
Sir, in the group we have already circulated your PPT. Our mailer of Voice of CA, next newsletter we will circulate.
Yes. If any of the person is sending, remitting any gift to any non-resident who is not his relative, say if any of your friend who is not your relative, his marriage is there in Australia, you are sending a sum of rupees 10 lakh as a gift to him, such gift will be deemed to accrue or arise in India and will be deemed to chargeable to tax in India, and you will have to deduct TDS at the rates in force in that case. If you are making payment of not more than rupees 5 lakh, then you are required to fill up the form number 15CA part A. And if you are making payment exceeding rupees 5 lakh and such sum is chargeable to tax in India also, then you are required to obtain the form number 15CB from Chartered Accountant, and as well as fill a form number 15CA part C. And this has just today become functional on the income tax portal also. 15CA CB are functioning very well, I think today, from today itself. Or yesterday also it had become, but today it is functional very well. If you are remitting any money which is not chargeable to tax in India, then you are required to fill up only the part D of the 15CA, and there is no requirement of 15CB. If any of the individual is remitting any money outside India, in case of LRS, under this 33 item, then he is not required to even fill up the form number 15CA. In case of individual only, this relaxation is there. However, bankers always ask for 15CA part D also in these transactions also. So you may fill up, there will not be any such negative impact on these transactions. If you are making payment to any non-resident and he is covered under DTAA, you may obtain a tax residency certificate from him. Then you may apply the DTAA rate, whichever is rates in force, or DTAA rate, or the specified rate, whichever is more beneficial to the recipient. If you are making payment of any rent to the non-resident, you have taken a flat on rent from any non-resident, then also you are required to deduct the TDS under 195 and not under 194I. And in case of 195, there is no basic threshold. So even if you are making payment of rupees 5,000 per month to the non-resident, you are required to deduct TDS under 195. 194N. If any of the person has not filed his 3 years continuous income tax return, then bank will be required to deduct TDS under 194N. And if in that case, if any person is withdrawing cash exceeding rupees 20 lakh in one financial year, TDS rate will be 2%, and amount in excess of rupees 1 crore will be liable to TDS at the rate of 5%. If he has filed income tax return of any of the year out of those 3 years, then TDS will be 2% on amount exceeding rupees 1 crore. If such person is withdrawing the cash for the purpose of making payment to the farmers for purchase of agriculture produce, and he is a commission agent, licensed commission agent from APMC, then he can furnish his APMC license and give a declaration to the banker. Then banker will not deduct TDS under 194N. But such transaction will have to be reported by the banker in 26Q, even if no TDS is deducted on such case transaction. E-commerce operator. E-commerce operators are required to deduct TDS under 194O. Interest on TDS. If any of the person has deducted TDS on 15th March 2021 and he has made payment of TDS on 17th May 2021, so the deductor will have to pay interest at the rate of 1.5% per month because of delayed deposit of TDS for 3 months, because he has not deposited the TDS on or before 14th May. If he would have deposited before 14th May, then TDS liability would have been only for the 2 months. I have given here various examples how to calculate the interest, because there was many times we used to say that the CPC, TDS CPC is charging interest for 3 months even if they had to deduct TDS for 2 months. So this I have clarified, and there is judgment, and I think CPC is also now charging interest correctly, not charging for 3 months in case of delay of 2 months. Survey by TDS charges. TDS charges survey are physically covered, and jurisdictional TDS officers will do the TDS surveys. And TDS assessment orders. During this Finance Act 2021, assessment limits for various sections have been reduced. But in case of TDS under section 201, the time limit has not been reduced. The limit is 7 years from the end of the financial year in which the TDS statement has been made or in which the payment is made. So the time limit of 7 years is not reduced. Whether TDS survey can be made or at any charitable or religious trust or at any central or state government? No. TDS survey cannot be carried out at any charitable or religious trust or at any central or state government authority. I have seen that many times. The TDS authorities have carried out surveys at central or state government offices itself. So as per section 133A 2A, no business is carried out by them. So no TDS survey can be carried out at charitable or religious or state central government offices. If any person has deducted TDS but not deposited, then he may be liable to prosecution under section 276B. If any of the person has furnished any incorrect information in any TDS or TCS statement, he may be liable to penalty under section 271H of rupees 10,000 to rupees 1 lakh. Or if any of the person has not furnished his TDS or TCS statement even after close of a lapse of 1 year from the due date of filing of TDS or TCS statement, he may be liable to penalty under section 271H. If any of the person has made short collection or non-deduction of TDS, then he may be liable to penalty under section 271C. 15G, 15H due dates I have mentioned here. Another important section is the 206AB. This is very important section. Across the India, all the industries, all the corporates are obtaining the 3 years, 2 years income tax returns from all their vendors, all their service providers. So this is very wrong thing, in my opinion, being done by these vendors or suppliers. However, these vendors may be doing this because the functionality on the income tax portal was not available. But during last 3, 4, 5 days, this functionality is already available on the income tax inside e-reporting portal, where anyone can find out whether the person who is supplying you the goods or whether who is supplying you the services is covered under 206AB or 206CCA. If any of the person has not filed his income tax return of continuous 2 preceding previous year, for which due date of filing of return of income under section 139 subsection 1 is expired, and his TDS and TCS is exceeding rupees 50,000 each previous year, then he will be covered under 206AB or 206CCA. Many of the person are also thinking that whether any of the vendor or service provider has filed his income tax return under section 139 subsection 4 and not under section 139 subsection 1, then also he will be covered under 206AB. So this is wrong presumption, because the section nowhere says that the vendor or supplier should have filed his income tax return within due date specified under section 139 subsection 1. The section only says that the due date of filing of income tax return under section 139(1) has expired, and the vendor or supplier whose TDS or TCS is to be done has not filed his income tax return under 206AB or 206CA, and simultaneous condition is that his TDS and TCS for each two preceding previous year for which 139(1) due date has expired should exceed rupees 50,000. Many of the person are saying that there is a new company which was incorporated in the month of January 2020, and that company did not file its income tax return for the assessment year 2020-21 because there was no business, no turnover, and for the assessment year 2021-22, the income tax return filing due date is still not expired under 139 subsection 1. So these 2 years income tax return was not filed by that vendor or supplier company. So whether TDS under 206AB will be done? No, because another condition you will have to see that it's a aggregate of TDS and TCS in each of the 2 years should exceed rupees 50,000 per year. Therefore, since the company had no business, then how TDS could have been deducted in the assessment year 2020-21? Another thing, many of the person are saying that a person has attained the majority in the month of January 2021. So he has not filed his income tax return for both these preceding previous year because he was minor, and he has not filed his return for assessment year 2021-22 also. So whether he will be covered under 206AB or 206CCA? No, he will not be covered because his TDS was not there. In case of minor, there cannot be any business. So how TDS would have been deducted? If his TDS would have been deducted under 194A on any fixed deposit made by him. So in that case, his father would be filing his income tax return. If his father has not filed 2 years income tax return, but now he has become the major, so his father's liability cannot be transferred to him. So he will not be covered under 206AB. This is the CBDT circular which have come on 21st June 2021 regarding 206AB and 206CA, and you can find out you are not required to obtain any of the income tax returns copy. You are not required to breach the confidentiality of your vendor or supplier. You will have to log into the new income tax portal through your TAN number. When you will enter this TAN number through log in your portal through your TAN number, you will click the pending action. Then you will go to the reporting portal. This will take you to the new reporting portal. Here you are required to select the form number, form type, and category. So third point is the compliance check, tax deductor and collector. You have to click this point. Then you will have to enter your category. If you are individual or HUF, then click here. Then you will have to enter these fields here. And then after registration, you will receive an email to the email ID of the person who is the responsible person. On this email, you will receive here this click login. You may click here itself through the PAN number of the individual or PAN number of the responsible person of the company or responsible person of the firm. Then you will have to change the password as and when you do the first login. Then you will have to enter the PAN number and password of the person who is responsible to deducting the TDS. Then you will enter here the compliance check. You will receive one, you would have received one ITD REIN on this ITD REIN. You would have received here one identification number. I have hidden this because this pertains to my client. So I have hidden this by this dark line. So you will have to enter this ITD REIN here. Then you will proceed as principal officer of that company. Then you will find here one window. you are to click here. When you will click here, if you are to do a single PAN search, you are to enter that PAN number of your vendor or service provider, and you are required to enter this CAPTCHA code. When you will enter this CAPTCHA code, you will click, you will find the result here. Here you are seeing at the bottom the result, the PAN. You had entered only the PAN number. Here the name of the PAN holder is here. On which date this PAN was issued, this is mentioned here. Whether this PAN is linked with Aadhaar or not. However, we are not connected with these two results. We are connected with this last result only. Here it is saying that he is not a specified person. So you are required to deduct TDS under 194A, 194C at the normal rate, not at the specified rate under 206AB. Here it is showing one PDF. This PDF you can download. This is the result of the PDF you can download. So during the whole year, you are not required to check this frequently. By this PDF, you may save this in Excel sheet, this result. And by way of searching this in Excel sheet, you will come to know that you are not required to deduct TDS on that person under 206AB. If you are required to search up to maximum of 10,000 PAN number, then you may click here. And you will have to upload one XML file, CSV file, in which only you are required to insert the PAN number in Excel, PAN number of your vendor or service providers. When you will enter the PAN numbers, you will upload this, you will get the result on your reporting portal. In this, I had tried the check, I had tried for 3 PAN numbers. For these 3 PAN numbers, this is the result I was given from the reporting portal. On my portal itself, they have shown search result as on this date for financial year 21-22. These 3 PAN numbers are there. The name are masked here. Full name will not appear. Date of allotment of PAN, PAN Aadhaar link. And here they have shown that none of the person is covered under 206AB and 206CCA. So this is the automatic result. So even if the big corporates are not required to obtain the copy of income tax return or any declaration from vendor or service providers. So in case of section 206C1, if you are selling any of the tendu leaf, timber or any scrap, you are required to collect TCS under section 206C1. A company had purchased timber from out of India and sold the timber in India. So the company told that the vendor is outside India. So I am not the ultimate seller. I am not the first seller. First seller is out of India. Kerala High Court told that since in India you are the first seller, thus, therefore the company is required to collect TCS under section 206C subsection 1. If you are selling any of the timber or tendu leaf or scrap for manufacturing purposes, then you can obtain form number 27C if a buyer is purchasing it for any manufacturing process. If such scrap is being used for further processing or it may be used as such, then no TCS is required to be collected. If such scrap cannot be used as such, then even if any person is trader of a scrap, he is required to collect TCS under section 206C subsection 1. If any of the person is remitting any money outside India in excess of ₹7 lakh, then bank is required to collect TCS at the rate of 5% on amount in excess of ₹7 lakh. If any of the person is a tour operator, even if he is an individual or HUF, and even if his turnover is not exceeding ₹1 crore, even if he has started business today itself, he is receiving any money for tour operator, tourist purposes, tour booking purposes, then such tour operator is required to collect TCS under section 206C1G on any amount received by him. If any of the amount is received by tour operator only for air ticket and not for any arrangement of hotel or travel, hotel or boarding or lodging, then air ticket is not covered under 206C1G. If it is combined with hotel stay, boarding, lodging, then whole amount is subjected to TCS. Then comes the 206C1H. Here again, this is the condition that the turnover of preceding year should exceed ₹10 crore and amount received. Here in 194Q, there is condition that at the time of payment of credit, whichever is earlier. Here the situation is reversed. whenever you are the seller is selling goods, he is not required to collect any TCS. He is required to collect TCS only at the time of receipt of goods, because intention of the government is to find out whether the seller has collected the sale amount, sale consideration or not. Therefore, we are required to collect TCS only at the time of receipt of sale consideration. If any of the sale consideration is subjected to TDS or TCS under any other provision, then seller is not required to collect TCS, but such seller will have to report this transaction in his 27 EQ statement. And another important thing, how the seller will come to know that buyer is collecting TDS, buyer is deducting TDS or not. So it is advisable that seller will obtain a self-declaration from the buyer that his turnover in the preceding year is exceeding 10 crore. Therefore, buyer will be deducting TDS under 194Q on amount of purchases in excess of rupees 50 lakh, or will have to obtain a declaration from the buyer that the turnover of the buyer is not exceeding rupees 10 crore. So he will not be deducting any TDS. In that case, if the turnover of the seller is exceeding 10 crore, then seller will have to collect TCS on receipt of consideration exceeding rupees 50 lakh. So this is the 27 EQ statement. Here this is shown that if you have not done any TCS in view of that buyer is doing TDS, then you are required to report here in this 27 EQ statement. So and if many of the seller have collected TCS at the time of issue of the tax invoice and not at the time of receipt of the sale consideration, then when their tax audit will be done by the chartered accountant, such chartered accountant will have to report that the seller has failed to collect TCS at the time of receipt of sale consideration. So he has not complied with the section 206C1H. So this was all the discussion on TDS and TCS provision. So thanks a lot to all of your participants, and thanks a lot to Sanjay Kamalji, Ashwini Jindal ji, Kalra Saab, and all the team members of the Voice of CA. I am thanking you. Now all every queries are welcome here.
Swanky, can you take the question answer?
Yes.
Swanky ji.
Yeah.
Hanji sir, I am just
little louder, please.
Question answer वाले ले लेना.
Hanji.
Your voice is not coming.
First question, Swanky ji, सौरभ गुप्ता का है मेरे ख्याल में.
हाँ जी, हाँ जी.
हाँ जी सर. हाँ जी सर. हाँ जी सर.
पढ़ो आप.
Sir, Saurabh Gupta ji पूछ रहे हैं that the correct TDS section. Okay, sir, that was a typing error.
हाँ जी.
सौरभ गुप्ता जी पूछ रहे हैं कि TDS provision जो under section 194A है, wherein the vendor is providing contractual manpower, and he also claims a percentage of charge on the services separately in the invoice, that is service charge. Then in such cases, the TDS will be deducted on the full invoice amount or only the service charge?
No, full amount, because that service charge is also in relation to that manpower supply providing services.
पंकज एक बात ना चैट बॉक्स में
सर अनम्यूट हो गए, अनम्यूट करो आप.
संजय जी अनम्यूट हो.
नहीं मैं हेलो.
हाँ जी.
हाँ जी संकी जी क्वेश्चन करो ना आपने कंटिन्यू.
Sir, I was waiting for the reply from sir.
So I have reply.
He has already given.
That whole amount.
Okay.
Whole amount is subjected to TDS under 194C. Yes. So
Okay,
next
okay.
question. Next question.
Okay, sir. So Ayush is asking what will be the interplay between section 197A and 206AB.
197A is related to the lower rate reduction. So 206AB, I have already explained in very much detail that if person has not filed his return for last 2 years and his TDS is more than rupees 50,000 in each preceding previous year, then it is covered under 206AB. So 197 is not to be considered here.
Okay, sir. So thank you, sir. The next question is from Kamaljeet Singh ji. He is asking that he has 2 queries relating to section 80D. In both the cases, Mediclaim insurance is not paid. So whether medical expenses paid online in US dollars for senior citizen, like father living in Canada, is eligible or not? Son is Indian resident and father is non-resident.
So any amount paid through other than cash is covered under 80D for any of the expenses paid for the senior citizen parents. So it is allowed. So next query.
And sir, his second query is that an Indian taxpayer who is a non-resident senior citizen is having a taxable pension income of 14 lakh from India, whether he can claim medical expense paid online by him in US dollars in Canada?
No.
I think he will not. Yes, he will not be.
It is only for residents.
The next question is from Ms. Jyoti. She is asking that under section 194C, there is true limit of 30. Just we are moving with the questions. Just a minute, sir.
30,000 per invoice and 1 lakh for a year. If our invoice is 34, then whether TDS under 194 is to be deducted or not?
Yes. Since the single invoice is of rupees exceeding rupees 30,000, so it is covered under 194C. So next question.
So another question by Kamaljeet ji. He said that we need to mention flag S in case of non-deduction under section 194Q.
Yes.
Does that mean we'll be reporting the same entry twice in 26Q? First while deducting tax under the relevant section and secondly under section 194Q along with flag S.
Yes. You will have to, so the software will automatically, it will separate, but we are to report this twice.
So the next question is from Neeraj Ehrawat, that if a person is having more than one business, an individual turnover of each business is less than 10 crores, but consolidated turnover of all business exceed 10 crore, whether provision of section 194Q will apply?
Consolidated turnover has to be seen. So he will be covered. If his consolidated turnover of all business of that individual person is exceeding rupees 10 crore, he will be covered under this 194Q. Yes, next question.
Sir, for the same section we are having for 94Q, whether we have to include sales from April to June?
Yes, to determine the limit of 50 lakh, you have to include this sale.
The next question is coming from Pramod Tapadia. Purchase transaction of 70 lakhs till 30th June and seller collect TCS 206C 1H. So
query may
now,
not be clear, but yes.
I think, sir, the next sentence is made that now with effect from 1st July, we have to deduct TDS, then calculation of 50 lakhs starting from which figure?
Seller will have to collect TCS on amount which has been received by him before 1st July 2021, or if the sales has been made before 1st July, but payment thereof has been received on or after 1st July, but buyer will not be deducting TDS on this amount under 194Q. Therefore, seller will have to collect TCS on this amount under section 261H. Because seller is only relieved from collecting TCS on which TDS has been made by buyer. So seller will have to collect TCS on this amount in excess of rupees 50 lakh. So next query.
So the next question is that can we simultaneously, can we simultaneously deduct TDS and TCS without checking the threshold limit?
No.
If anyone is doing this is okay, then there is no problem to the government.
So there is a query from Rajat Gargji that in one of the case, commercial property owner is staying outside India and has hired an agency to collect rent and maintain the property on behalf of owner. Agency collects the rent and remits to the owner later on. Client is deducting TDS of agency. So since the rent is being paid to agency account, now question is, agency says that TDS should be deducted against the owner PAN and not for agency. And they've given form 37B on this behalf. Please suggest if this is possible.
The agent is not the owner. The owner is the non-resident. So TDS will have to be done under 195.
So the next question comes from Ashwini Gupta ji, the TDS liability on ocean freight paid to shipping line. What is the TDS liability, sir? On ocean freight
covered under section. It is covered under. This is a separate applicability. It is not covered under the chapter 17B. It is covered under section 172.
So the next query is regarding the PPT. That will the stepwise PPT be shared with all?
Yes, PPT I have shared. And
let me tell you, we have already shared the PPT in the VOCA Connect group. Now, if you people are giving me the email ID, it is not possible for me to right now see those email ID. You are requested to either join the VOCA Connect group or write me at voiceofca@gmail.com, giving your membership number and email ID so that I can add you in Voice of CA so that you get everything in time. Secondly, if still you are not getting the mail, there are certain issues with the Yahoo and the Rediff mail ID. So if it is possible for you, all members, to give me a Gmail ID, so I will add you in the Gmail group also. So if you want quick things, you need to come in the VOCA Connect group. Please join VOCA Connect group given in the chat box or write to me at voiceofca@gmail.com. We have already shared this PPT in VOCA Connect group right now, and also our promoter group in Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, young, old, women, everywhere. So all volunteers are requested, if the demand is coming for any PPT, etc., they should ask me. I will put that in those promoter group, and that you can share later on in your individual groups of your city. This is something what I wanted to request you.
I hope the query has been answered, Hari Babuji. So the next query is from Surinder Kumar, that whether TDS under section 194Q should be deducted on taxable value plus GST or only on the taxable value?
Including GST.
And sir, further in the case of advance paid to supplier, whether TDS deducted on whole amount or any by back calculating tax amount?
No, whole amount. Whole amount is covered under 194.
Okay, so the next question is from Samir Agarwal, that if purchase is made before 30th June of goods and payment is made after 30th June, whether TDS under section 194Q would be applicable?
Since purchases has been made before 1st July, so it will not be covered under 194Q. If seller is covered under 261H, seller may collect the TCS under 261H on that amount. Yeah, next query.
The next query is from Ashwini Gupta ji, that LTC cash allowance for salaried person cap and whether claimed by anyone, whether no LTC given by his company.
If LTC is received, then only he can claim LTC, otherwise he cannot.
So the next query is from CA Vinay Gupta ji. We are collecting the TCS, then how it is not complying with respect to tax audit?
If you are collecting the TCS, but the intention of the law is to collect the TCS only at the time of receipt of the sale consideration. So if you have collected the TCS in the tax invoice itself and deposited at the time in the month of issue of the tax invoice, so you are not complying with the intention of the law and provision of the law. So the tax auditor may report this as non-compliance, in my opinion. So next query.
So the next query is from KK Singlaji. Whether TDS is to be deducted on gross amount, including GST under section 194Q.
Yes. Already replied. Repeated query.
Sir, Kamaljeet Singh ji is asking again that section 80D is allowed to NRIs also. Kindly consider my question again.
So Kalra साहब आप बता दें इसका आंसर.
काला जी NRIs वाला क्वेश्चन का आंसर दो.
Amount paid by the resident for non-resident parents is allowed. If non-resident itself pays, then it is disallowed under section 80D.
Yes, yes.
No additional benefit, extra benefits are given to the non-residents.
So I think the next question has also been answered. It is the TDS under section 194Q is to be deducted on amount including GST.
Yeah, sorry, please. What is the query?
So the TDS under section 194Q is to be deducted on amount including GST.
Yes, yes. This is repeated query. So we have already 3 times answered.
Actually, let me tell you, sir, the confusion is not at all there, because when you are receiving or giving the payment, the component of GST or anything is not separately given. It is a lump sum. That is why they have said, since we are taxing on payment or receipt, so it has to be inclusive of everything. Am I right?
So should I continue with the next question?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So the new firm registered of financial year 2020-21, is it liable for 206 AB and 206?
No, I had already explained. I had already explained in my lecture. So next question. It is not covered.
So the next is from CA Nikhil Chhabra ji, that whether a non-resident having property in India, which is let out by non-resident to resident in India, will be treated as permanent establishment as per section 206 AB?
No,
if yes,
no.
Okay.
It is not P.
Okay, sir. Because the next query is, if yes, it means TDS rate will be more. So we need not take the further query. So the next question is from Ayushi. So she has put her question in detail that if a person has given forms 15G and 15H under section 197A and is also specified person under section 206 AB, that is, he is not filed RY for last 2 years, whether TDS will still be deducted under section 206 AB in spite of 15G or 15H forms deposited?
The query seems to be not proper because if any of the person has furnished the form number 15G, then it is clear that his TDS would not have been deducted. And section 206 AB clearly says this, his TDS should have been deducted and each year's TDS should exceed rupees 50,000. So if TDS is not deducted, he is not defaulter because this amount is already reported to the income tax department, and department may issue him any other notice if he has not filed his return. Even if he is defaulter, he is having interest exceeding rupees 2.5 lakh. So these both things are different. 197 has nothing to do with this 206 AB.
Actually, sir, 206 AB have 2 twin conditions. So at the parameter of both the condition, it is to be satisfied.
Yes.
Am I right, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, correct, sir. Yes.
So the next question says from Vimal Goyalji, is there any way for waiver of late fees for late or not filing TDS or TCS returns?
If any of the late fee has been levied on or before 1st June 2015 for any of the TDS statement or TCS statement falling due before 1st June 2015, there are so many judgments across the India from many of the High Court and tribunals. But if any of the late fee under 234E is relating to period on or after 1st June 2015, if it is much bigger amount, then you can contest, because TDS CPC Ghaziabad has no authority as of today. Also, even after 1st June 2015, TDS CPC has no authority to levy late fee, because CBDT itself has no authority to delegate this power of levying late fee, because under section 200A subsection 2, CBDT has authority only to delegate power by way of income tax TDS return processing scheme to levy TDS or levy interest only. So late fee is not covered. So therefore TDS CPC itself is not authorized to process, because they have no power. So you will have to go up to High Court stage, I think. If the amount is too high, you may go to up to High Court stage, you may win.
So the next question is that if the property is purchased from NRI and TDS is deducted and it's deposited on the part payment wrongly in 26QB, how to rectify in remaining payment?
Either you may obtain the from the seller his income tax returns, then you may be relieved. You may have to pay only the interest, or you may have to pay a penalty under 271C, and you may show any reasonable cause. Otherwise, you will have to reverse the entries and you will have to deduct TDS under 195. Both these options are available. If the seller has filed his income tax return in India and shown this transaction, then the buyer will not be deemed to be in default.
So the next question is from CA Vinay Gupta ji, that we are collecting the TCS with bill instead of payment. Then how it is not complying with respect to tax audit? We are depositing the same to the government.
I have already told.
So Kishan Mittal ji is asking, when is the buyer of goods required to deduct TCS?
Buyer will not do any TCS. TCS is always to be done by the person who is receiving the money. Buyer does never do any TCS. Buyer always do the TDS.
So another question is that in case seller has not collected TCS on sales up to 30th June, whether TDS is to be deducted on such sales or not?
No. If the liability of the buyer comes on or after 1st July 2021, only in that case he is liable, otherwise he is not liable.
So the question is from Mansi Parekh, will 206AB be applicable to NRI?
No, it is not applicable to NRI. If he is not having any permanent establishment in India, then it is not applicable.
So the next question is from Ankit Goyal. Where a situation arises on the cutoff date such that buyer has to deduct TDS under section 194Q and the seller has to collect TCS under section 206C1H, then whether TDS would be deducted on the amount of sale consideration inclusive of TCS amount?
No, TCS amount is separate. TCS amount is not to be considered for the purpose of 194Q. 194Q is applicable on the purchase value of the goods inclusive of the GST.
So the next query is, I think, not typed correctly. So how much rate of tax to be deducted? It's not fully written. So we can take the next query. Is from CA Vinay Gupta ji. Can a self-declaration save seller from TCS default in case buyer fails to comply with TDS provision?
Please repeat your query.
So it's, can a self-declaration save seller from TCS default in case buyer fails to comply with TDS provision?
No. If the buyer has not done TDS, the liability of the seller will come, because in the 27EQ, the seller has to report that TDS has been deducted also. TDS is deductible and deducted, and the seller has to report the challan number and TDS amount and date of deposit of the TDS by the buyer. If he is not having the date of the deposit of TDS, challan number of deposit of TDS by the buyer, then seller will be responsible to collect the TCS. So he cannot relieve by way of only the declaration.
So the next question is again from Ankit Goyal. Whether value of sales return or trade discount needs to be taken into account while calculating threshold.
Under both sections, it is not to be considered. So both are liable to TDS and TCS, both things.
So the next query is, can demand for late fee and interest on late payment of TDS be paid without revision of TDS return?
No, in my opinion, if you will revise this, then only your demand will be rectified. Otherwise, I think it will not be rectified. You have to revise, file the rectification statement.
So CA Naresh Kumar ji पूछ रहे हैं, TDS is applicable or not on amount charged by NBFC, say Bajaj Finance, from dealer of electronic goods.
So please repeat your query.
So the question is TDS applicable on amount charged by NBFC, for example, say Bajaj Finance, from dealer of electronic goods?
If NBFC is not purchasing the goods, NBFC is only the financing company. So they will not have to do this.
But if the interest is there, then it is deductible.
The next question
please
is,
continue.
Yes.
The professional fee paid under contract basis, can TDS be deducted under section 194C instead of 194J?
If any of the person is not covered under 44AA subsection 1, he is not a CA, doctor, engineer or architect, then he may be covered under 194C.
So the next question is from Gaurav Mehra ji. If a person has taken a residential property on rent from non-resident, but paying rent to his relative who is resident, whether liable to TDS under section 195?
Yes, he is liable to TDS under 195.
May I request the queries to put their question in time, because then the speaker, seeing the number of questions raised, will manage his time, because at Voice of CA, we believe answering in all the queries. The cash of the cashier should tally with zero book balance, and there should not be a difference. So what I am finding that earlier only 37 questions was there, but the moment we started answering the questions, so the questions are coming in. If we are not in a position, because it is already 6:20 is there, whatever swanky question, 5-10 minutes you can take, because in Delhi we have a lockdown at 5 o'clock, so sometime the police comes also. So we need to finish the session with another 10 minutes.
Okay, sir, I'll be a little quick. Sir, another question is that we had a query regarding permanent establishment. Any examples of permanent establishments in case of NRIs? What should be covered?
If any of the company or any of the person is doing business in India and they are having any permanent establishment from where they are carrying out their business activities, then they are having said to be having permanent establishment. The control should be there in India. Control and their business activity should be there from India, and we have to obtain a declaration from the person who is the non-resident that he is having permanent establishment in India. So then only we can determine.
Sir, if the rent is paid after deducting TDS at 32% to NRI every month, who is a specified person, what rate of TDS will be applicable? 32% or 64%?
32%.
So
because
seller,
this is a 206 AB itself is not applicable to the payment to the non-resident. It is only 32%.
So the next question is, if seller has not collected TCS, what is the implication?
There will be no disallowance, but he may have to pay the interest under section 206C, and as well as he may have to pay penalty under section 271CA. And another important thing, that if he has not collected the TCS, his wrong reporting will go to the GST department. GST department may carry out any inspection or search or seizure, etc. at his business place. So this
prosecution is also there. Prosecution is also there exceeding 1 lakh amount.
Yes.
They are saying, what if ITR for only accounting year 1920 is filed and for accounting year 2021 it's not filed? In both the cases, TDS is more than 50,000.
since the ITR for one of the year out of the assessment year 1920 and 2021 has already been filed, and ITR for the assessment year 2021-22 is not, the due date is not expired, so he will not be covered under 206 AB.
So if the seller has included TCS in sales invoice but buyer deducts TDS under section 194Q, what is the seller's obligation on TCS?
Seller is not required. If buyer is covered, this is the responsibility of the buyer. Even if wrongly the seller has collected the TCS, even though buyer cannot relieve himself from the responsibility of 194Q.
So if A and B are jointly purchasing one property from co-owner C and D amounting to rupees 75 lakhs, how the TDS will be deducted?
If the amount is, say for this, there will have to be 6 challan. A will deduct 3 challan of the seller number XYZ. B will deduct 3 challan of seller number XYZ. So there will have to be 6 challan. 3 by the A buyer, 3 by the B buyer.
So next is TDS required on interest and loan availed from NBFCs?
Yes, this is, if you have taken any loan, this is covered under interest. So this is liable for TDS. Because exemption is available only for the banking companies or housing finance companies only.
So the next question is whether TDS rate provided in section 206 AB needs to be grossed up in terms of section 195 if the payment is made pursuant to net of tax contract.
Yes. You have to, as per if since 195 206 AB itself is not applicable in 195 transactions, so there is no need. 195 is separate liability.
Is the section 194Q and 206C1H applicable on billing under construction contract with material?
Construction contract are already covered under 194C, so this will not be covered. And construction is a service. This is not a sale of goods.
So the question is, if a property owned by non-resident is let out to resident and payment of rent is made in Indian rupees, whether TDS is to be deducted under section 195 or not?
Even if payment is made in Indian rupees, it is covered under 195.
Okay. So is TDS required on interest on loan availed from NBFCs?
Yes. Repeated queries.
ये तो हो गया, हाँ जी.
Yes.
So whether the higher rates as per section 206 AB have to be increased by surcharge and or education cess?
No education cess and surcharge is required here. Only the double of the specified rate or 5%, whichever is higher.
I think all the questions have been answered.
बहुत क्वेश्चन आज आपने सर रिजॉल्व कर दिए. एक दो हैंड रेज थे, अभी भी किसी का अगर हैंड रेज है या कोई क्वेश्चन रह गया तो हम ले सकते हैं सर. अनिल जी.
Ashwini, yes, ma'am. Because as a panelist, I couldn't raise the question. It is to Mehta Sahab and Kala Sahab both. But this is a situation arising out of COVID. Somebody who was employed outside India was forced to come back to India and is in India. And he is rendering service from India. Now, there are two issues, whether his own taxability in India or out in the other country. But the liability under 192, if it is that he is rendering services from India to his parent country.
In case of salary, even if non-resident is providing services in India, it is always covered under 192 and salary is never covered under 195.
No, sir. We are that a person of Indian origin. He is forced to who is a forced stay in India, and he continues to render service to, say, maybe a US company or Singapore company, any other company. Now, issue that I am trying to raise is the income is taxable. It will be a separate issue that it is whether it is taxable in India or outside of India. But from the point of view of 192, if suppose he is rendering service from India and he is an employee, he is an employee of a foreign company who is rendering service from India, whether section 192 would come in come into operation or not.
Kalra साहब आप दीजिए आंसर, सर की क्वेरी बहुत अच्छी है. So I think you may give the answer.
हाँ जी उत्तर साहब आप दो रिप्लाई.
It will be TTS service outside India.
He is rendering service from India.
Yes,
He's rendering service from India.
Whether it is from India, but it is not far India. It is from
then
India.
In that situation, all services availed in India by anyone posted outside India would again be deemed to accrue or arise in India. That cannot be. It cannot be that.
This is, I think, so long query. So we may take up this next time. जब भी अग्रवाल साहब बुलाएंगे,
it has to be. There has to be
benefit.
Just a minute, श्रीवास्तव जी, जो वर्क फ्रॉम होम जो कर रहे हैं, उसकी कंट्रोल एंड मैनेजमेंट उसी जगह है जहां वो वर्क जा रहा है. वो कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल भी उसके साथ है. I don't think that work from home, if people are those who are employed outside India, if they are doing in India, they will be treated as employee in India.
Right. You've taken a good point that the control and management control
because
the services rendered that logic could be taken. That logic could be taken.
I may conclude that the company who has employed them is not situated in India. Their employer is situated outside India, so their salary is not covered under 192 in India. Okay. So next question.
Sir, sir, but let me tell you, if you go to Dubai, नहीं लगेगा. If you go to Dubai and you do the work from there, and if they come to know that you are doing a business over there and you are on a tourist visa, they will challan you. So this is important. I'm telling you because once I have gone, so I was doing some work with my client. He said, don't do in my office, do in hotel, don't do in my office. So this is important. So far as I think we should not raise this query. If people are there doing work from home in India, they will not be subject to 192.
Yes.
अगर किसी और अटेंडी का कोई क्वेरी है तो वो हैंड रेज कर दें, उनको हम पैनलिस्ट कन्वर्ट कर देंगे या अनम्यूट कर देंगे. सो दैट 5 मिनट में हम कंक्लूड करना है सर सेशन. तो अगर किसी अटेंडी की कोई क्वेरी है तो वो अपना हैंड रेज कर लें.
अश्विनी जी, आई थिंक देयर इज नो क्वेरी. लेट अस कंक्लूड क्योंकि हमने टीडीएस पे टीडीएस पे ये दूसरी सीरीज है क्योंकि अमेंडमेंट इतने आ गए थे. अभी मेहता साहब से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आप सिर्फ और सिर्फ जजमेंट के ऊपर हम आपको एक बार बुलाएंगे, वेयर यू विल एनालाइज द जजमेंट जुडिक्शन वाइज. तो ओनली नथिंग ऑन यू कैन से A to Z, दैट विल बी ओनली एनालिसिस ऑफ द जजमेंट.
यस.
तो फिर अगर हो गया सेशन तो रणदेव साहब को बोल लें वोट ऑफ थैंक्स दें, साथ में वोटें भी मांग लें. वोट ऑफ थैंक्स, वोट फॉर थैंक्स भी.
Mr. Mehta, it was a wonderful session today, and in a very short time you have covered almost the whole of TDS, which is always considered as very tedious, and you have been very up to the mark. And as Mr. Sanjay was saying, we will keep on asking you to come again and again. And at the same time, जैसे जिंदल साहब ने कहा ही है कि अब द टाइम फॉर इलेक्शन इज ऑल्सो कमिंग. तो ये जो इतना अच्छा काम हो रहा है ये वॉइस ऑफ सीए की ओर से, आई वुड लाइक इट शुड कंटिन्यू. और इसके साथ वोटों के साथ साथ उनको पोजीशन भी मिले. आई वुड ऑलवेज प्रे कि हमको लीड कर सकें, और इसके लिए हम सबको जोर लगाना है क्योंकि अब टाइम जोर लगाने का इज कमिंग वेरी वेरी फास्ट. एंड जैसा काम हो रहा है तो कहते हैं वर्क स्पीक्स फॉर इटसेल्फ. तो ही डिजर्व्स टू बी इन द काउंसिल ताकि हम सबको साथ लेके रिप्रेजेंट वहां करें और इससे भी अच्छा काम इंस्टीट्यूट में भी कर सकें. और ये काम ओवर द ईयर्स इन्होंने करके दिखाया. मतलब ये नहीं है कि इलेक्शन आगे तो शुरू हो गया. तो इट हैज ए कंसिस्टेंट हिस्ट्री ऑफ डूइंग गुड वर्क, एंड आई विश एंड प्रे कि ही कंटिन्यूज टू बी लाइक दिस. एंड ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ वॉइस ऑफ सीए, आई रियली थैंक CA Rajesh Mehta ji for having spared his valuable time. Or once again we congratulate and Mr. Kalra, our big brother, for his birthday wishes and also for launching such a wonderful work जो मैं कहता हूँ कि इट शुड बी ऑन द टेबल ऑफ एवरीबडी। तो कालरा जी, इसको आप सिर्फ ई बुक ही ना करो, इसको छपवाना भी है। एंड एज गुरुजी वाज सेइंग, you are also to lead us by way of various talks also. With these words, I thank you everybody.
Swinky is left.
Yes, but she has been really phenomenal. And और ये एक ना, I would also like to compliment कि ये जो आप chance देते हो ना to our budding chartered like Swinky, this is just a start, and the way she has presented and done everything, it would be a long way in her career. And well done, Swinky. You have really been very instrumental in keeping this function in a very, very nice tempo. And attendees, that is our main, our core, our voters, क्योंकि उनके आने से ही we feel obliged and we feel motivated. With these words, I thank you all, and thanks once again to Sanjay Agarwal ji for having given us such a wonderful platform where we can all interact with various topics and subjects and are able to listen to such good personalities, and like Mr. Mehta, who has really put in lot.
आपकी वो आवाज दिक्कत हो गई है कनेक्शन की, रंदेश साहब। चलो, थैंक यू वेरी मच। आपने अपील ऑलरेडी कर दी है संजय जी के लिए, और काइंडली बी कनेक्टेड विद द वोका के प्रोग्राम आगे भी प्लान है, वो पहले आपको बताए थे, और वोका की वेबसाइट पे मिल जाएंगे। वोका का सर्कुलेशन भी आता है और मेरा सर्कुलेशन भी आता है। आने वाले टाइम में भी बहुत अच्छे
very soon we are going to launch our app also.
हाँ, और कोशिश करेंगे कि वहां पे गुरुजी को बोलते हैं, इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया को बुला लो, वहां से करवा देते हैं लॉन्च। क्यों संजय जी?
थैंक यू वेरी मच। स्टे सेफ, स्टे हेल्दी। गुड नाइट, शब्बा खैर। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
संजय जी,
कंट्रोल रूम काइंडली क्लोज द प्रोसीडिंग्स।
अरे ये इनके कालर साहब की बुक शेयर कर रहे हैं?
हाँ जी, कर देंगे।
और पीपीटी हम शेयर कर देंगे वॉइस ऑफ सीए से।
नहीं, वो पीपीटी आ गया, कालर साहब की बुक
कर देंगे। वो भी वॉइस ऑफ सीए से भी आ जाएगी, वैसे भी आ जाएगी सर।
राइट।